My neighbor's daughter accidentally scratched my car, and even though I forgave her and said, hey, it's not that big of a deal, the mom of this kid is demanding that her daughter do more than just apologize. As this entitled mom and her kid showed up at my door the other day, with her mom filming her daughter handing me an apology cake. But instead of going along with this weird humiliation ritual, I decided to put my foot down and say, no, I'm not going to be a part of this weird video, which seriously pissed my neighbor off beyond end because she clearly wanted to embarrass her daughter online in a way that I was honestly not comfortable with. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can find out just how weird someone else's neighbors can be. And holy crap, this first story is definitely that. After reading this story, I thought to myself, oh my god, I'm so glad I don't have neighbors like this. This would be so annoying. So have a seat and hang out. We're gonna have a good time with this first story. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already. And while you're at it, leave a comment down below. Let's find out who got here first. In fact, I want you to be so early to this video that it feels criminal, just like Valkyrie Pagan the other day. She clocked in on a video so early she felt like, oh man, this is wrong, I shouldn't be here. But Valkyrie Pagan, you're exactly where you need to be. You'll never be arrested for being early on my watch. And with that, let's get started. Okay, so a neighbor of mine a week ago who's 16 years old unintentionally scratched my car with her bike. She immediately stopped and started crying and ended up calling her mom for assistance. The scratch appeared worse than it actually was, and in store, it was simply polished away for a small amount. Now, since it was an accident and a very minor one at that, I didn't charge the girl or her mom. When she apologized, I just said to her, oh, it's all right. Just be more cautious next time, especially around cars. Like, it's not a big deal. Well, then a few days later, her mother wrote that her daughter still feels a bit bad and wishes to offer a more sincere apology. But I simply wrote back that, hey, everything's good. I don't have any problems with them. But the mom said to me, oh, she wants to deliver a cake as a small act of peace. And when she said this, I agreed and thought, okay, that would be sweet, I guess. When they arrived, the girl was holding a cake box in her hands and her mom had her phone out. The girl then began muttering about taking responsibility and putting things right, but it really appeared as though she wanted the earth to engulf her. Then her mom quietly said, okay, honey, now give him the cake and ask if he accepts your apology. I then looked at her and I said, wait, is this being filmed? Her mother then said to me, oh, I just wanted to make a video out of this. It'll serve as an excellent illustration of how young people can take responsibility for their actions. I can hide your face if you want me to, but I really need to video you accepting the apology from my daughter. Well, I took the cake and I told the girl that everything was okay between us and that, hey, I had already accepted your apology that day. Then I turned to the mom and I said, hey, I do not want to be a part of any kind of video. She then actually started arguing with me. She said that I could have just let her finish properly, but eventually everybody went home. But now fast forward and the mom's upset with me. She doesn't even say hello to me when she sees me and things are incredibly awkward. And so for the sake of like good neighbor relations, perhaps I could have waited like 30 seconds. But I really just don't like how a simple apology was transformed into a scene, one that this girl seemed really uncomfortable with. Plus, this lady was filming me without my permission, and it might have looked after she published it as if I was someone who demanded an apology from this kid when I didn't want that. So am I really in the wrong here? Like, am I the jerk for refusing to be in this stupid apology video? Because I'm not sure what to make of any of this. Okay, someone in the comments section said it best, but this is so performative, it's not even funny. Like seriously, this is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make a social media post about this. My daughter did something bad, time to put her on blast. Like holy crap, Karen, keep this on Facebook. What are we doing right now? Why on earth would you think it's a good idea to put your kid through like a humiliation ritual like this? Wasn't this already resolved? Like what's going on right now? And the fact that she tried to rope the original poster into this is crazy. Like dude, I don't want to be a part of like your weird boomer Facebook thing you're trying to make or whatever's happening right now. Because I guarantee you, your daughter's gonna grow up and hate you probably for the rest of her life. Like, what are you doing right now? Like, bro, thank God my parents never did anything like that to me because I would probably lose it. I would most likely never want to talk to them again if there was a video online that was like me handing a cake to my neighbor, being like, I'm so sorry that I scratched your car, my bad. Like, dude, what? I don't want that forever on the internet. That's never going away. That's gonna show up at my wedding one day. Like, what are we doing? So no, to the original poster, you're not the jerk. I think you did the only reasonable and adult thing in this situation because the mom's crazy and she obviously wanted like social media clout by dragging her daughter through the mud. And that, in my opinion, is a terrible strategy for anybody to want to like you. If you want to share your own stories and you've got like a burning experience you want to share with the world, then go to AmITheJerk.com/submit to submit those stories and share them with us. We're reading through those stories all the time, and honestly, we would love to hear what you have to say. Also, while you're at it, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? Check them out in the description. We love what they're doing over there. They're doing some fantastic work, and honestly, I think you're going to like them as well. And with that, on to the next story. Today, I need to confess that I've been gaslighting my boyfriend about our internet for over 6 months, because after he has spent like literally 8-hour days playing his new video game, I've decided to take matters into my own hands by quite literally throttling our internet on purpose, forcing him to jump off his game and finally spend time with me. Here's basically what I've been doing. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my boyfriend is a great guy, but when he gets into a new game, he basically ceases to exist as a functional human being. He will spend 8 hours straight on Discord with his friends, screaming at a monitor, while I sit in the other room like a piece of furniture. A few months ago, I reached my breaking point after he missed a dinner reservation I made weeks in advance because he was in the middle of some raid. Now, instead of having another useless fight about it, I decided to get technical. I have always been the one who sets up our home network, so I know my way around the router settings better than he does. So now, every time he stays on that computer for more than 4 hours, I log into the administration panel for my phone and I throttle his MAC address to a crawl. I make it look like a random connection drop or massive packet loss. He starts lagging out and getting frustrated, and eventually he just gives up and comes to find me on the couch. I then put on my best confused face, and I just tell him, oh, my phone's working just fine, so it must be his hardware, or maybe the game servers are acting up again, or something like that. We then actually end up talking or watching a movie together, and he thinks he's just having like bad luck with the internet service provider. It has also reached a point where he actually called our provider to complain, and I literally had to intercept the technician visit. I told the tech that everything was resolved, and I sent him away before my boyfriend got home from work. I felt a tiny bit of guilt for like 5 minutes, but then I remember the 3 years of being ignored every single time a new expansion drops. He has even started talking about buying a new $500 router because he thinks our current one is dying. Now, I let him browse the options and even pointed out the ones with gaming stickers on them, knowing full well that I will just do the exact same thing to the new one as soon as it's plugged in. But you know what the weirdest part about this? It's that our relationship has actually improved. He's more present, and we actually do things together on the weekends now because he's just too annoyed with the crappy internet to bother with long gaming sessions. He thinks I'm being supportive by listening to his internet spikes, when in reality, I'm like one-clicking the button to ruin his game. I know it's manipulative and technically insane, but I'm not ready to give up the quiet evenings. I just bought a new pair of noise-canceling headphones with the money we saved from him not buying in-game currency lately. So personally, I find that to be a massive win, and that's something I don't think I'm going to give up on anytime soon. Oh boy, I love this. This is such a good idea. Seriously, your boyfriend's ignoring you, he's not doing anything for like 8-hour stretches, and it's like, dude, hold on, this is supposed to be like a relationship. You need to like communicate and stuff. So the fact that you're going in there and you're like changing the router to basically like throttle the internet is hilarious. Especially for a boyfriend like this, where they are just obsessed with their video game. Like, I can't think of a better way to get his attention than to literally rip the game out of his hands. So good for you, your boyfriend needs to pay more attention to you. And if this is your way of making it happen, then honestly, I say keep going for it. This is really funny. My boyfriend completely ruined what should have been one of the happiest moments of my life. Because just like he always has been doing lately, he gave me a terrible attitude and just completely diminished everything I've been working for. And at this point, I am seriously upset and I really just don't know what to do anymore. Here's basically what happened. Okay, for starters, we're both 24-year-olds and we've been together for more than 3 years. Yesterday, I found out that my US student visa was approved. I've been working towards this for a long time, and he was one of the people who knew everything that was happening throughout the application process. So I trusted him with something that I had not even told my friends about yet. Last night at around 10 o'clock p.m., I texted him and I said I had something really important to tell him, and I asked him if I could call him. He then said that he was with his family, so I told him to let me know when he was free as soon as possible. Well, after that, I went to talk to my mom, and when I came back about 30 minutes later, I saw that he had texted me asking where I had disappeared to, and I replied and just asked if I could call now. Now, instead of calling, he asked what I wanted to talk about, and I said I wanted to tell him on a call, but asked if I should just text it instead. He said yes, and so I texted him, hey, my visa got approved. And guess what? His response wasn't congratulations or excitement or even like acknowledgement. He completely ignored it and said, oh, is that why you've been so busy? I then explained that I wasn't busy. I was just talking to my mom. Then he started complaining that I took too long to reply, and then just told me to look at the timestamps. I then asked him, wait, what's wrong? And he said nothing, and then just went offline. I then called him because I was genuinely confused, and he declined my calls multiple times. Eventually, when he finally answered, he immediately started yelling at me. He said to me, why are you calling me now? Stop calling me on your terms. But the thing is, I call him every single day. He's usually the one who's busy or like disappears for hours, and I never make a big deal out of that. But then I disappear for like, 30 minutes one time, and suddenly it's a huge issue? When I tried asking why he's acting like this, he literally told me to shut up and then hung up on me. And when he did that, I ended up crying. I felt completely heartbroken because all I wanted was to share one of the biggest achievements of my life with someone that I love. I sent him a long message explaining my side and how hurt I was, and he responded saying that, oh, I didn't care that he was waiting for me after I said I had something important to tell him. I then told him that I did care and I tried to explain, but he cut me off and said, oh, don't call or text me anymore. Well, after that, I couldn't sleep all night. I ended up crying all night and feeling alone and unloved when I should have been celebrating with my partner. I mean, any healthy partner would have been happy for me, right? He had already gone to sleep, but I stayed up till like 4 in the morning and I sent him text messages on how I felt, which he hasn't seen yet, but I know when he does, he won't even acknowledge how he made me feel. In his eyes, I'm always the one at fault, no matter what the situation might be. There was not even a moment of acknowledgement from him. If it were the other way around, I would have been over the moon for him. I've always supported him, but when I'm the one who needs support, this is exactly what happens every single time. I'm starting to realize a pattern where important moments in my life somehow become centered around him instead. Earlier this year, we had an argument and fought a day before my birthday, and the next day, he didn't even wish me happy birthday. When I called him myself, he yelled at me that he didn't want to talk to me. We moved past it though and resolved everything, but honestly, for how long? I'm tired of always being understanding and supportive, but never receiving the same. I am seriously beginning to resent him, and at this point, I just don't know what to do. Oh man, it sounds like you have a crappy boyfriend. The barrier of entry here, by the way, of like your partner sharing good news is you being like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you. Like even if you're having a bad day or like something's going wrong, if your girlfriend says something as big as like, dude, I got my visa approved, you should be excited no matter what. You really need to put your own problems to the side and be like, oh my gosh, I love you. I'm so happy for you. Because yeah, that's exactly what a reasonable person would do. But this boyfriend acts like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're calling again. Like this isn't a debt collector, dude. This is your girlfriend. This is the person you're supposed to love and cherish and be there for. This is not some spam phone call from like a telemarketing scheme, because that's kind of how he's treating her right now, and that's insane. So personally, to the original poster, I think it's good that you're seeing a pattern. Like that is fantastic news because it proves that yeah, you're paying attention and you're clearly seeing that things are not right. And for me, like in my opinion, if he can't be this excited about like one of the biggest days of your life, then he will probably never be excited about anything you're doing. He'll probably meet you with that same sense of like, oh my God, what is she talking about? Or almost this dismissive arrogance that just, man, that really sucks. So for me, that's a huge red flag, and it is something I absolutely would not ignore. Am I the jerk for telling my cousin that the only reason she's struggling to find a boyfriend is because she is so unlikable as a human being? Because right now she's upset and I'm starting to think that maybe I took things a bit too far. And at this point, I'm not really sure how to move forward. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, my cousin has always made jokes about me. She's always based her style on trends and doesn't really have any hobbies. She works in human resources, she lives in a cute suburb, and constantly makes digs at people if they deviate from a social norm. Now, I understand that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Like, I've got tattoos, I've got piercings, colored hair, I make my own clothing, I live in a trailer in the woods, and I teach preschool. I love sewing, carpentry, running, painting, reading, photography, and cooking. Finding dates and suitors for me has never really been a struggle, despite not looking like a traditional hot person. Plenty of men like weird girls, but having hobbies has also attracted most of my options. Well, recently, my cousin has been trying to date again after getting divorced. She's been struggling to get dates online, and asked for my help reviewing her profiles because, in her words, somehow I always have a handsome date for events. And honestly, her profiles looked fine. I asked her if she was getting messages, and she explained that the issue is a lack of good men. Now, as a woman, I know there are plenty of weirdos out there, but there are plenty of men to go through. I then read a few conversations, and she basically was just interrogating her matches until they stopped responding. I suggested a few different, approach methods, and she just shut me down. She genuinely believed that she didn't say anything off-putting. I then told her that I don't think I can help her solve the problem if she isn't really trying to change her approach. She then said that I don't understand how hard it is to find a date as a divorcee, but I told her that she doesn't understand how hard she's making dating by being unlikable. And when I said that, she understandably got really upset. She then asked me what makes her unlikable, and so I explained that outwardly judging people while having nothing interesting to talk about is off-putting. Now, I know that what I said wasn't kind, but I wasn't saying it to hurt her. Truthfully, I want her to find love, but I don't think she will without like actual introspection about her personality. Fast forward though, and now my grandma is demanding that I apologize to my cousin for going too far. But my thing is, like, my cousin has made endless comments about my appearance and interests my whole life, and the only reason it never upset me is because I know it holds no weight. So should I apologize simply because it was unkind? I feel like if I apologize, she will assume that I didn't mean what I said, because she says some really mean stuff to hurt people and not usually because she believes it. But here's the thing, I do mean it. Part of me wants to apologize for being unkind, but I do not want her to believe that I was only saying it to be unkind. I also think that if I give an apology or explain that I meant it, she will just be upset all over again. Should I just let time pass and hope the issue gets dropped? Because like at this point, I'm not sure if I'm the jerk and I really just don't know how to fix this. Okay, personally, I don't think you did anything wrong because it sounds like this is a relative that needs to be humbled. Seriously, who finds joy in insulting people just to hurt them? That sounds like a terrible person in my opinion. And if anything, she got a taste of her own medicine. Like, dude, look at that. She clearly can't take what she's dishing out. And I'll never understand people like this where it's like, dude, all you have to do is be nice to somebody. Just be likable, be approachable, but don't be a jerk about stuff. So for her to like literally go around and say the weirdest and meanest things to like anybody around her, but then when someone like returns even just a little bit of that energy, she breaks apart and says, I can't believe you said that. Like that for me is hilarious and so deserved. So no, you're not the jerk. Your cousin needed to hear this. And I guarantee you that if you did try to apologize, this cousin would probably hold that against you. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if she had like her own insults ready to throw at you for this kind of like interaction. She sounds crazy enough to try it, and based on what you're describing, I would not put that past her in the slightest. Am I overreacting for thinking that my boyfriend crossed a major line that can't be uncrossed after he's been essentially dismissing the fact that my mom just died? Because right now I am devastated and I feel very hurt by this and I just don't know what to do. So I've been living with my boyfriend for a little over 3 years and honestly, I still don't know if I'm overreacting or not. For a bit of context, my dad passed away 5 years ago and after that it was basically just me and my mom. We got insanely close and one of the things we used to always do was spend evenings together while she tried teaching me how to play the piano. I was horrible at it and she used to make fun of me all the time, saying that maybe by the time I was 40, I'd finally be a real pianist. I never got good, but those nights are some of my favorite memories. Well, 2 months ago, she passed away from a stroke, and I haven't really been myself ever since then. Some days are okay, and then other days I see something random that reminds me of her, and it just completely ruins me. After she passed, I inherited her upright piano. It's not some crazy expensive antique or anything like that, but it means a lot to me because it's probably the thing I associate with her the most. A few weeks ago, I asked my boyfriend if we could move it into our apartment for a while. Our place isn't huge and it definitely looked out of place sitting in the living room, but I just wanted it around for a little bit. Now, he agreed at first, but after maybe like 2 weeks, he started getting annoyed about it. He kept asking me when I was going to move it somewhere else and saying it was taking up too much room. I kept telling him eventually, but I wasn't ready yet. Around the same time, we were arguing more in general. I've been grieving and not really interested in going out, doing much of anything, and definitely just really feeling absent from the relationship. Well, he kept bringing this up and asking when things would go back to normal, and eventually it started causing fights between us because I felt like he wasn't understanding what I was going through. The night before all of this happened, we got into a huge argument and went to bed angry. I left for work early the next morning, and when I came home, the piano was gone. I genuinely thought that someone had broken into the apartment at first. I called him freaking out and I asked where it was, and he told me that he had paid movers to take it to a storage unit because he was tired of waiting for me to decide what to do with it. And honestly, I completely lost it when he said that. He kept saying it was safe and that he was paying for the storage himself, so I just need to calm down. But then he said something that really pushed me over the edge. He basically told me that maybe now I could finally start moving on instead of acting like my mom was still sitting in the living room with me every night. And my God, I started screaming at him and we got into another massive fight. He says he was trying to help and that everyone has been walking on eggshells around me for months, but I think he had absolutely no right to touch something that important to me without asking. I ended up grabbing a few things and staying with a friend for the last couple of days, and ever since then, he's been calling and texting nonstop, saying he never meant to hurt me and that he thought he was helping me. Some of our friends think that what he did was completely out of line, while others think that, yeah, he made a bad decision, but for me, I'm letting grief make it into a bigger thing than it really is. I honestly don't know what to do anymore, and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting because this is just really messy. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from here, and I completely understand what you mean. Like, I've definitely had loved ones pass away, and like, dealing with that grief is really hard. And when you compound that with the fact that like, dude, it's only been 2 months, like all of this can feel very fresh and very raw. So I don't know, if I was the boyfriend in this scenario, I would leave the piano where it was. I would give my girlfriend some space, dude. 2 months is nothing. That might as well be yesterday, dude. The least this guy could do is give you some space and be there for you and just listen to when you're like upset. Instead, this guy's trying to like steamroll it and be like, okay, you got to get this grieving over with. It's been 2 months and it's affecting my life. I mean, what's the problem here? Your mom only died. What's the big deal? Like, dude, this guy's so selfish. Like, what a loser. So no, I don't think you're overreacting. I think your boyfriend is being very insensitive. And him not understanding where you're coming from is just so stupid and something that is so avoidable. An entitled Karen tries to stop paramedics from getting patients into the hospital and demands to be seen first. The situation got so bad that the police had to get involved. So a few days ago, around 5 o'clock in the evening, we got a call about a code black that was announced in the hospital where I work. For those of you who don't know what a code black means, it basically means that people got hurt on a very large scale and that these patients were being sent our way. A code black might mean something different at different hospitals, but that's how we have it labeled. Apparently, 2 buses had collided with each other and some patients were mildly hurt, while some also had some serious injuries. And with all of that in mind, here comes the entitled Karen with her stupid gremlin child. She had brought her son into the emergency room because her son was having minor stomach aches and was refusing to eat food. I personally went to her and told her that a large number of patients are coming here as they have trauma and that we're going to be seeing them first so that we can ensure that this possibly fatal incident doesn't cause anybody to pass away. So we asked her to either wait in the hall or to go to the Department of Medicine and someone would attend to them there. With that in mind, this entitled Karen starts to make a fuss about how we are refusing to do our duty and how we are just there to trouble the patients. At the same time of this entitled Karen saying this, the first 2 ambulances have arrived and both the patients were injured badly. On seeing that, the security guards had to clear the entrance to the emergency room and asked her to move aside. When she refused to do so, he called a female guard and they pushed them aside. She actually started to scream like a banshee that we had apparently assaulted her as well as her gremlin child, and that now she is going to call the police and file charges against her for harassment. We ignored her shouting and screaming, and we took the patients inside and gave their wounds enough support to stop any kind of tragedy from happening. We were also prepping these patients so that they could be taken into surgery for the injuries that they had occurred. She came back into the ER with her stupid child, and of course, we were there. And let's just say that because these patients were injured, things were not as tidy on the ground as you would expect, if you know what I mean. And because things were so urgent and things weren't quite cleaned up like they would have been right away, this entitled Karen started to shout at us, saying that we are going to give them infections and make them sick because of how things look currently. We again had to ask the guards to escort her out of the building as the ambulances with less injured patients had to start coming in. We were tending to those patients when she tried to stop the entry of a patient who was not very injured but needed full examination. She said that this patient is fine and her precious baby needs treatment first. Remember, we had already told her to go to the other department, but she didn't want to walk the small distance to go over there and have her precious little child evaluated and treated. This time, she actually did call the police and tried to pester us again. One of my fellow doctors intervened and told the police exactly what's going on, telling them the entire scenario. They already knew that we were treating patients and that apparently the woman had told them that we were refusing to see any patients and that we were making them wait outside. After hearing just about enough, the policemen took this lady outside and gave her a nice earful, as well as delivering some strong words, as well as a hefty fine. This lady was banned from the hospital for 2 weeks. Later, we did treat her son, and it all turned out to be a sham. This kid didn't even have any stomach issues. The child was in fact just making a big fuss because he didn't get the food that he wanted that night for dinner. On the brighter side, all of the patients that had to come into the hospital were all completely treated, and today was the last day that we saw any of the patients involved in that accident. They are doing perfectly fine. Some people really have the audacity to be such idiots in scenarios of emergency for nothing but attention and drama. I'm honestly surprised that lady didn't go to jail for trying to obstruct people from getting getting into the hospital who actually had some kind of issues going on. I've heard and seen Karens be absolutely ridiculous in situations where it's like, oh man, you're not getting the sale that you wanted that was advertised in the newspaper, or oh no, you treated my kid badly at the restaurant we're going to. But in a moment of an emergency, it's really baffling to me that someone would try and act this entitled. Like, can't this lady see that there's somebody that might pass away because of the actions that they're taking? This lady really tried to pull the whole, I'm gonna call the police on you, as if that's gonna solve anything. And the worst part about it is, this kid was not even sick. He was just being a spoiled little brat. I wonder where he learned that behavior from. They could have gone down to another department and stopped bothering the emergency room and actually gotten some treatment that could have helped them. It's just ridiculous that they acted this way, and I genuinely cannot believe that they didn't get arrested. In my opinion, if you obstruct an ambulance or any kind of patients who are in dire need from getting into a hospital, you deserve some jail time, in my opinion. But that's just me. What would you do if you were in this situation? If you were hypothetically a doctor on call or someone in the emergency room watching this go down, how would you react? Because I can tell you, I would not have been very kind if I saw this happening. Leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear it. I just found out that the guy I've been seeing used to sleep with my close friend, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. So recently, I've been seeing this new guy for the past 5 months, and everything was going great. We've been doing long distance as he had a job in another state. However, he will be back home in about 2 months. He's honestly really sweet. He goes above and beyond for me, and we share a lot of the same values. However, I found out from a friend of mine that he used to sleep with his best female friend quite regularly, who is also a long-term good friend of mine. When I asked him about this, he said it was true and that he was going to bring it up once he got home. And he didn't bring it up last time he was here, and he didn't want to ruin the time we were spending together. He was willing to answer any questions I wanted and to give me space to wrap my head around the whole thing. However, I can't help but just be super turned off since finding out about this. I've had a lot of bad history with infidelity in past relationships, so I might have some trust issues. However, it's not even jealousy at this point. The two of them are really, really close, which I feel could bring up problems in the future. And I don't want to be that person saying they can't be friends. Their thing together stopped about a month before he met me, and they've maintained this very close friendship ever since. I'm just super turned off over it, which is a shame as he is already a great guy, and everyone has a past before they meet someone, right? Is this immaturity? Do I need time to process this and to wrap my head around this, and then I'll be okay with it? Or is this a deal breaker? Has anyone else ever been through something similar? And how did it turn out for you? What should I do? I can understand where you're coming from, but I also don't see this as a deal breaker in my opinion. If I was with a woman and she was with one of my best friends a month ago, I personally would not find any conflict with this as long as there's no romantic feelings between either of them anymore. If there's any kind of feelings or any kind of flirting or anything along those lines, that would be a big red flag for me. If I'm going to consider them my girlfriend, then they need to act like my girlfriend, not the flirty ex-girlfriend of some other guy, especially if that other guy was a good friend of mine. But in that same vein of thought, I completely understand where you're coming from. He was with your best friend. I mean, you can't ignore that. So I totally understand where you're coming from, where you feel a little bit jealous, as well as a little bit jaded by the whole situation in general. That honestly makes sense. But I don't think you should call off this relationship just because of somebody's past. If he hits all the marks and he's being loyal to you and he loves you and he cares about you, in my opinion, I don't think you should just get rid of him. I think maybe giving this some time and having some time to process it and accept that, hey, he's been with other people before will really help you go a long way with this relationship in general. Is me threatening to break up with my boyfriend manipulation? So my boyfriend and I have been together for 6 months. Our first months together were bliss because we live very close by and we both had minimal responsibility at the time, so we spent every waking moment together. But now we are kind of long distance. We live about an hour apart, and he's always busy with school and family, so I only end up seeing him 1 to 3 times a month. When our 6-month mark was coming up a couple of weeks ago, I felt like we didn't really have much of a relationship to celebrate because I hardly saw him, and it felt like not much effort was being put in on his end. He was treating our relationship as it was in the first month when we quite literally were together 24/7, but being 60 miles away and him being mostly busy most of the time definitely makes things hard. Anytime I would mention him coming to see me, he would complain about gas prices and that the trip itself would take an entire tank of gas. I always drive to see him whenever I get the chance. Even though gas is so expensive, I don't care about the gas prices and will just sacrifice me eating out or something like that to pay for the gas. I never complain about it because I genuinely want to see him. him. Even when he comes and sees me, he sends me a picture of how much gas costs with a crying emoji. Like, yeah, that makes me feel really great, but I was driving to see him way more than he was, and it just didn't feel like the effort was mutual. He also says he appreciates me and that he will do anything for me, as well as wanting me to be in his life long term, but I don't know, it just never feels that way. Since I met him, he hasn't given me flowers, and he just doesn't do the little things that I enjoy. And I have told him I've communicated what I want, and he just says, well, I was planning on doing that, but never actually does it. I understand he's busy, and I understand he's still in school, whereas I have already graduated, so he doesn't make as much as I do, and he helps his family with his money. So I genuinely understand that he has other responsibilities and priorities, but it was starting to feel like he was just expecting me to stay by his side without any effort. I know who I am and what I deserve, and I kinda had a reality check with myself when 6 months was coming up, and I was like, yeah, I don't deserve this. This has kind of been an ongoing conversation, but anytime I say something about it, he apologizes and says something along the lines of, I appreciate you and just bear with me until I finish school. And that's about it. When 6 months was approaching, I was hardly sleeping, and I just wasn't at peace with where our relationship was. So I literally drove to him at 11 o'clock at night because having this conversation over FaceTime and hearing him say, I appreciate you, just bear with me, was really getting old. Why do we need to wait for him to finish school to have a good relationship? Why not do what we can now to build a solid foundation if we really are in this for the long run? Anyways, he recognized and understood that ever since we moved away from each other and he started his new semester, as well as a new job, he hasn't been putting in a lot of effort. And he apologized and said he didn't realize how much this was actually bothering me. In this conversation, I told him I truly do want to be with him, but the way he's treating our relationship makes me question a lot of things. And well, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I told him if you were anybody else, I would have broken up with you by now. I would have broken up with him that night, but I really do care about him, unlike anybody I've ever met, and I want to give him the chance. I told him if our relationship is the same by our 1 year mark, then I don't think I'll stay, and I stand by that. Ultimately, we worked things out. On our 6-month day, which was a couple's day after that conversation, he drove to me with a big bouquet of roses, with the number 6 written in different colored roses, as well as a huge stuffed bear, some balloons, and some sentimental gifts. Overall, this has really just been bothering me. But was me saying I'll break up with him manipulation? I read up a lot on domestic abuse, as well as emotional and verbal and physical abuse, partner manipulation, you name it. So I can be educated on that, and I do all that I can to have a healthy relationship. My intentions with him were to communicate to him that even though I love him and want to be with him, I am not scared to break up with him. I love myself too much to have my peace and sleep interrupted by a man when I could just be single and peaceful. I'm not sure what to do, and I really hope I didn't make a mistake here. I don't totally see it as manipulation. I think it would be more manipulation if you used it as a tactic to get what you want. Like if you were using the fact that you're going to break up with him as some kind of weapon to get him to do what you want, then yeah, in my opinion, that's 100% manipulation. But in this instance, it seems like you were just super honest with your boyfriend. You told him straight up, hey, I don't like where we're going. I feel like you're not putting in the effort, and I really don't see myself having a future with you. I just don't see that kind of honest conversation as a form of manipulation. It sounds like you're trying to do everything right. You're communicating with your boyfriend. You're trying to have a solid relationship, even though you live about an hour apart, and he's just not stepping up to the plate. But even better than that, it looks like you both worked it out, and that conversation made a big impact on him. I don't think it was a bad thing for you to speak honestly and openly with your boyfriend and explain to him like, hey, we need to fix this. Because it worked. You fixed the situation, and it looks like you guys are on a good path now. So in my opinion, I don't see this as manipulation. I don't think you had any ill intent in mind. I think honestly you just wanted what was best for you as well as your relationship as a whole. And the fact that this all worked out and that things are going well right now is more than enough evidence for you to hold on to that you did the right thing and you're both working towards a common goal, which is exactly what you want in a healthy relationship. My girlfriend has gone overboard with all of these rules for our home, and it is absolutely driving me crazy. My girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years. She is the best thing that ever happened to me, and I plan on marrying her. Lately, however, her rules, I'll call them rules, but they're more like obsessions, are driving me crazy. I know she is meticulous, and I know she is very particular, and I know she's a perfectionist, but I'm honestly starting to think that she has some kind of underlying OCD or something. Our house always has to be pristine and everything has to be in its right place. But when I get off from work, I I just want to relax and not care about the fact that I hung up my jacket on the wrong hook. If I try to help her with laundry, she gets frustrated because I hang up the wrong things at the wrong places. Apparently, shirts go in a certain place on the laundry line, and it's a disaster if they're too close to the socks. I'm not allowed barefoot outside. Otherwise, I have to wash my feet before I can get back into the house. I'm allowed to put my feet on the couch if I have socks or slippers on, but those same socks and slippers are not allowed on the bed. Sometimes I just want to get into bed without having to put on clean socks. If a pillow so much as touches the floor, it has to be washed. But then, if the designated pillowcase for that particular set of sheets doesn't match, well, then the whole bed has to be stripped and changed. All our sheets and pillowcases are white and look exactly the same. She reminds me to pack my lunch for work every morning, which is nice and all, but she does it 4 times in a row. She tells me every morning and every night to wash and moisturize my face multiple times and makes me promise that I will remember to do it only because I passed out on the couch and forgot one time. I've told her that it bothers me when she does this. She does tell me that she can't help it because it just builds and builds in her mind over and over if she doesn't say anything. I'm not even allowed to say goodbye to her in the mornings. I can only say see you later because goodbye apparently could curse one of us. I'm also not allowed to say drive safe. She is currently studying for her board exams, and she's already told me that I'm not allowed to say good luck because I will jinx her. She is extremely intelligent and graduated at the top of her class last year. I told her mom about how well she did and how proud I was of her. Later that night, she was bawling her eyes out. When I asked her what was wrong, she said that she knew I didn't mean anything by it, but if people are aware of how well she did, it suddenly means that she will do poorly on her board exams. Apparently, her mother told her whole family, who then called to congratulate her, and I felt like the worst person in the world. I feel like things are just getting worse too. For example, one of the cloths that we used to clean the house was missing. We had a huge argument about it because she was tearing down the whole house trying to find it. I helped her look for it, but gave up after 5 minutes because it was after work and I was so tired. She got angry at me and accused me of not caring about our things. I told her that I do care about our things, but this is just a piece of cloth and we can buy another one. It's just not worth the effort for me. She was freaking out, saying that it was difficult to find that particular type of cloth in the color that it was, and that otherwise it wouldn't match the others that we already had. I then said that it doesn't matter what color the cloths are, just that we had them, which made her really upset. It's been almost a month and we haven't replaced the cloth yet because we can't find one of the very specific colors that she wants. The worst thing is that I really think it affects her health. We both love to cook and often do it together. We usually spend time together drawing up a meal plan for the week, but her incessant rules has started to make the whole process unbearable. Meal planning now takes hours. Every dish that we make has to have enough vegetables. Fine, that's great, but the vegetables have to be the right vegetables for the dish. Some things can't be eaten together because they don't fit according to her. If a meal doesn't have enough of the right vegetables, she gets incredibly anxious to the point that she's nauseated and then she just won't eat. She also has this thing where food can't be wasted, and then I tell her it's fine, we can just have it for leftovers for lunch, but obviously lunch is also then planned out, so she gets even more stressed out and eats a small plate of vegetables while I myself make food. It's stuff like this that goes on and on and on. I know she has struggled with depression in the past and that she's on antidepressants, but this just feels like it's something more. No matter what I do to reassure her, I just feel like I'm making things worse. I've told her that she needs to go see a therapist, but she told me she feels ashamed of these things and doesn't want to waste the money on a therapist. I just don't know what to do anymore. What should I do? She definitely needs to be evaluated to see if she has OCD, because from my own experience with other family members who do have OCD, this definitely fits the bill. I mean, the way that she's acting is not normal. I think anybody can really see that. She doesn't even allow you to lay in your bed without socks on. I mean, that's just weird to me. That is not normal behavior. There's some kind of anxiety issues or OCD issues going on, but don't take my word for it. it, go to a therapist and get it verified. It is not a waste of money to get help with your mental health. That's exactly what psychologists and psychiatrists are there to do. They're there to help with your mental health. So go take advantage of it. I would personally go research somebody who can help out with this specific situation. Maybe even trying to find someone who specializes in OCD. They might know exactly what to do. At the end of the day though, you can't make her go to therapy. Like if someone does not want to go to therapy, they're definitely just not going to do it. So the best that you really can do is try to be encouraging and help her as best you can, because this is your future wife that you're talking about. And if you really love her and if you can really stand all these weird rules, then the best thing you could do is try and stand by her in this really weird and kind of awkward situation in her life, because I'm sure that she would do the same for you, no matter what's going on. Today, I messed up by rushing my job and paying someone 215 more hours of overtime than I should have. It was an absolute disaster. I work in accounts, and one of the things we regularly do is pay people for overtime. The manager sends us a form, we plug the numbers in, they get the cash. In the pay system we use, you put in a 3-digit numerical code for the type of overtime you want to pay, then the number of hours, and let the system work out the rest. We are supposed to check the final payment screen to make sure everything adds up correctly, but if we are in a rush, we often leave that step out to save some time. I mean, come on, what's the worst that could happen? One day, I'm working through a mountain of requests, and I haven't slept terribly well. I open an email for 3 hours of overtime. I plug in the proper code and put in 3 hours of overtime, and move on without checking as it's almost payday and tasks are coming thick and fast. That was a couple of weeks ago. Today, I get a call from a manager who was doing an audit asking why their unit's overtime bill was so large last pay. I look into it and I find it's all coming from one employee. I open their pay record, preparing explicitives about whichever idiot on my team entered the data badly, only to see my name next to the entry, which has the code 215, you know, the one I put in earlier, under the hours section. In my sleepy overconfidence, I had entered the code in both boxes and accidentally paid someone 215 hours of overtime instead of 3. The total cost for that mess up? A little bit over $15,000. And this was for someone who was normally paid about $900 a week after taxes. Normally, we have a couple of fail-safes. I should have checked myself, and one of the IT guys usually scans for any strange figures, but he was off sick that day, and I was, well, messing up. So now it's a mess, and we have to try and figure out how to get all that cash back. Yeah, that's a big mess up on your end, but somebody definitely got a good payday out of it. I'm not sure if they're able to keep that money. It'd be really funny if they could, but I highly doubt if that money is still available. If I was an employee and I had gotten a $15,000 raise suddenly, you better believe I would have spent that already. No, all jokes aside, hopefully this all works out, and hopefully nobody loses their job over this, because this is definitely losing your job kind of territory, and I would hate to see that happen. An entitled Karen demands that I drive her everywhere every day all the time, and after being taken advantage of by this parasite, I eventually put my foot down and say no more. And once I say that, she absolutely loses it. I haven't spoken to my neighbor for nearly 3 years after I began refusing to be her taxi driver. We had a decent relationship for some time. We were always cordial. My neighbor doesn't drive, and at the time I was a stay-at-home mom with a toddler, as well as 2 kids in school. She first began by coming by one afternoon, asking if I could take her and her kids to the dentist. Okay, sure, it's not too far. Then another time, her child needed to be seen at an urgent care, and she needed me to take them, but this is when issues first began. That particular day, I had a contractor at the house and needed to finish with this. She told me I needed to hurry. I told her that it wouldn't take long, but if this is actually an emergency, then she needs to call emergency services or an Uber. She said it would wait. So my contractor is done and I go and pick them back up. Well, this goes on off and on for a while. Frankly, it's a little frustrating, but I'm trying to be neighborly, but then she began flipping a little. One day I get a text message asking if I've left to take my kids to school, and I had. She said her kids overslept and she wanted me to drop them off for her. Our kids go to different schools, by the way. I say yes, but she needs to come too because I won't sign them in. She agreed, and overall, I spent an extra 40 minutes out of my morning with my toddler who doesn't like being in the car. But okay, again, being neighborly. And that's when I start to notice a pattern. Her kids keep oversleeping and she keeps knocking on my door or texting. I often try to run errands after I drop my kids off from school, so I'm usually out doing things. So when I get a text saying, "Where are you? Will you be back from taking your kids to school soon? I need a ride," I just tell them, no, I won't be home. And then she asks if my husband can do it since he works from home. No, he's working. She had the audacity to get snippy and then say that she would have to call them out of school again and that they've missed too much. I just ignore that and went about my errands. I get another text message asking where I am and when I'll be home. I tell them that I'm the next city over and that I have no idea when I'll be back, telling her that she needs to call an Uber. She claims Uber is unsafe and that she'll get hurt. Then she says that she will get a ride to her apartment in that same city and that I can wait for her to be done and to take her home. I ignore her after that. Next week, I'm at another doctor's office far from home. Again, I get a text. This time she says, "Where are you? You're not home again and your husband won't answer the door. We need a ride to the dentist in 30 minutes or I will have to cancel the visit. Can you hurry home?" At this point, I am beyond tired of being questioned about my whereabouts. My husband doesn't even do that, so I just ignore her. We finish the visit and I take my kids to get treats. Then a text message pops up and says, "Are you coming? I need you to hurry." Again, I ignore it. And at this point, I'm just over all of this. That's when she texts me back and says, "Never mind, we missed it." The final straw was 2 weeks later. She meets me outside while I'm doing yard work. She said that she got her kids signed up for an orthodontist and that now she needs me to start driving them to their monthly appointments and that she will pay for gas in the process. But here's the kicker. The orthodontist is 40 minutes away on a bad part of town. And considering that the appointment will take up to an hour as well as another 40 minutes back, I'm going to be doing this every month for roughly 2 years. She said I could just wait with my toddler nearby, or I could go shopping while they do this. And that's when I told her flat out no. I told her that I don't like being far from the kids while they're in school in case I've got to get them, and my toddler will be miserable, and that's just too far. I asked her why she would book an orthodontist that far away when she doesn't even drive, and she said because it was cheaper. She kept arguing, but I stayed firm in my no. She was very frustrated with me, and had been frustrated as I hadn't been around more lately to help out. My husband is mad at this point and had told me to stop completely because she's using me and he doesn't like that. And you know what? He was right. I told her I won't change my mind. She grew very cold towards me. She ended up finding another poor unfortunate soul to start giving her a ride. But then 1 month later, her ride bailed on her and she came again and asked me if I would take her again. But still the answer was no. And as I explained it last time, that's not changing. She was furious and legitimately never spoke to me again. And you can bet I will never reach out to this lady for anything ever again. Talk about making the right decision. This lady was 100% using you. Imagine being so selfish that you harass your neighbor for a ride anytime you need to get things done. I have run into people like this who just take advantage of your kindness, all for the sake of them getting stuff done. There's never a thank you. They never pay you back. They never decide to help you out in return. The kindness is not reciprocated, and it is absolutely miserable dealing with these people because I don't think they actually care. And the person in this story absolutely fits the freaking bill. They took advantage of your kindness for so long. You have way more patience than I do because there's no way I would have put up with that. People like this absolutely make me sick. Like, if this lady really has this many reasons to go out driving, especially 40 minutes away, then they need to get their life together and learn to drive. Because honestly, this is not a you problem. This is definitely a they problem. They didn't take the time to either have their license, or they obviously don't have their life together enough to be able to have a license and drive. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I'm so glad you cut this parasite out of your life. Because you, your husband, and your toddler do not need to deal with that. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for cutting contact with my family after they turned my mother's life as well as mine into a living nightmare? I'm a 22-year-old female, and it's been 7 years, and I still haven't talked to an entire side of my family. Here's the thing. My grandmother is the kind of woman that privileges one kid above the other. She always gave more to my uncle than to my mother, to the point that my uncle turned into a complete spoiled brat. He's the type of guy that would cut off contact with you for 3 years without any news, all because you didn't go to his son's birthday party, even though you had a good reason not to go. Yeah, this guy's a winner. As for my grandmother, she always treated my mother as an ungrateful child, and she was always taking her anger out on my mother. She also didn't hesitate to tell her she was an unwanted child. When my mother was 5 years old, my grandmother told her the only reason why she was born was because her husband wanted a daughter. As she grew up, my mother started to rebel and even decided to cut contact with her mother after my grandfather's passing. But then she became became pregnant with my older sister and felt that she was being unfair. One of my grandfathers passed away at an early age, and the other one left without a trace, so she wanted us to at least have both of our grandmothers. It went well eventually until my mother became pregnant with me. I was born the same day as my grandfather's death. Because of this, my grandmother hates me and wanted to show it to me. She was always acting nice around me, but she was always strict with me, to the point that when my sister and I came back from a trip we did, I ran to my mother while crying as if I just saw the devil himself. That's how bad she was when I was on this trip. She was also neglectful towards me when she was helping my mother babysitting my sister and I. And I don't mean it in an emotional way. One day she made me swim in nothing but underwear under a blazing sun, although my mother packed a swimsuit for me. I ended up being burned very badly on my whole body. Or she would let some strangers look after me in a foreign country while we were on a trip. Another thing that she does is that she never wants to celebrate my birthday on the actual day itself. Eventually, I would understand why this state affected my grandmother so much, and how my grandfather's loss was so devastating to her. But she got rid of every single one of his belongings. She went as far as refusing to give anything to my mother. To this day, I don't own anything from my grandfather's. The only thing I have from him is an old vacation picture where he's barely visible. I started to realize she actually hates me when I was around 13 years old. My mother still had to listen to my grandmother's improper comments, but she acted as if it was nothing, for the sake of my sister and I. As for me, she always treated me like a worthless girl. One day when she came to visit us, she even stood before me, looked me in the eyes, and then pretended like she didn't even know my name. To make it clear, she has a very good memory, and even if she didn't, my mother talked with her every week, even though we live very far away from where she lives. She did remember my name. I tried to not think much of it, just so I wouldn't hurt my mother, but I couldn't take any more when she started assaulting my sister. Before my sister was born, my grandmother decided to make a bank account for my sister and I. She would fill it until we were 21 years old. My sister is 5 years older than me, and my grandmother started to harass her about what she would do with her money, although none of us knew what amount my sister would receive. We don't care about money. In fact, my sister and I didn't want it, but I still lost my temper when this happened. My parents, my sister, and I all had to go through a lot, so we're pretty close. Also, because of that, we're pretty protective of each other. And since I inherited my mother's personality, I felt the urge to protect my shy, quiet, and overly nice older sister. My mother and I ended up having a huge argument with my grandmother, and we didn't talk to her for a very long time. That was until my mother's uncle, with which she was close to, passed away. As I said before, we live far from the rest of the family, so my grandmother had to tell us about it. My sister and I decided to accompany my mother to the funeral to give her support. When we arrived, no one was at the graveyard, so we called my grandmother and asked where they were. That's when she gave us the true address to the graveyard. We ended up arriving when everybody was about to leave. My mother had to listen to improper comments and couldn't say goodbye to her uncle properly. After that, my grandmother told my mother to come and take back the last thing she still had from her. And since then, we stopped talking to each other. I learned she's saying to everyone that she is the victim and that my parents, my sister, and I are just ungrateful morons. My mother suffers a lot from this whole story. I still see her cry about it from time to time. She also apologizes countless times to my sister and I because she feels guilty of giving us a grandmother like that. And I must say that I suffer from this too. I try not to show it for my mother's sake, but I still think about it a lot, and I still don't understand what I did wrong. Sometimes I even catch myself thinking I would rather have her pass away and instead have my grandfather be alive. And when I think about this, I feel like a monster. So am I the jerk for wanting to cut off this side of my family out of my life? No, you are not the jerk. Your grandma is a psychopath. As someone who has a side of their family who fits this description almost perfectly, I know exactly what you're going through. And I understand the stress that comes along with having relatives that treat you like absolute garbage. A lot of the bad talking and the name calling and the crappy treatment, for the most part, I can understand as just being their personality traits and something that if you ever see them again, you'll probably have to put up with. It doesn't mean that it's okay, but at least you can know what you're going to get into if you ever decide to come in contact with them again. And for me personally, there's no way in the world I'm going to be treated like that. Not for a second, especially not my family. But the fact that your grandmother gave you the wrong address for this funeral for your uncle is absolutely unexcusable. I can let go the fact that they're terrible people and they pretend to not know your name. I can get over the fact that they treated your mom like garbage and then they feel the need to try and treat you like garbage as well. But on the the one day when everyone is full of such sad emotions and everyone is feeling incredibly vulnerable, she decides to pull this garbage just so your mother can't say goodbye to your uncle, basically, is absolutely unacceptable. I can't imagine not being able to say goodbye to a family member of mine simply because somebody in my extended family decided to be incredibly toxic and just cruel. Like, there's no excuse for that. Like, that is such a low, disgusting, vile thing to do to somebody. So are you the jerk for cutting off contact with this family? No, I would have done that years ago. Sometimes the best antidote for toxic family members is to get away from them. Absolute distance and time will definitely heal all wounds. And I think the best thing you could do for you and your family, in my opinion, based on what you've described, is to move forward without any of those people in your life. As someone who has done something similar to that, I can tell you that you'll get a lot more peace in your life, and you'll overall probably be a lot happier. But that's just my opinion. What would you do if you're in this situation? Leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear it. My boyfriend made me take a polygraph test to see if I was sleeping around with someone else, and I failed the test miserably. I am a 24-year-old female, and I took a polygraph test back in March and April. My brother is a 30-year-old male, and he forced me to take one because he thought I was spending some quality time with someone at 6 in the morning while he left in the morning to go for a run. We live in a small town of about 20,000 people. I am personally not from that town. I come from a city about 2 hours away, and I have never been to the town we live in until I met him. In fact, I was never allowed to go out by myself. I never knew anyone there but my boyfriend and his family. I never spent quality time with anybody else, if you know what I mean, at any point during our relationship. So we drove 2 hours to the closest city, and I paid for everything as always. I paid for gas, food, and the $300 polygraph test. The results came back, and the polygrapher said I failed miserably. He told me I was trying to control my breathing, which I know I wasn't. I am always taking deep breaths here and there. I was nervous, even though I told my boyfriend I wasn't, because I didn't want a reason for him to be sketched out or for him to be mean to me because of me being nervous. And since I was nervous, I was taking deep breaths. But I wasn't trying to. It was just my nerves getting to me. The polygrapher said I scored a -13. I don't even know what that means. He said that I double failed. Apparently this means I failed miserably. Does anyone know anything about this or know anything about what this means and how that is even possible? I need some advice of what this means because I stormed out. I was so upset because I don't know how I could have failed miserably, especially because I have never spent any quality time with anyone while my boyfriend goes running. What do I do? You need to pack your things and get out of that house. No sane individual would have their significant other take a polygraph test just to see whether you are loyal or not. Like, that is crazy. Like, why would you even begin to agree to take one of these? If my girlfriend came up to me and said, "You've been cheating," and I looked at her and said, no, I'm not. And then she said, "We're taking a polygraph. We're going to prove it right now." I would look her square in the eyes and say, "We're breaking up." Not because I have anything to hide, but because it's the principle of the matter. What is this? Mission Impossible? I'm not out here trying to save the world or steal the Declaration of Independence, lady. I'm trying to make breakfast and you think I'm cheating. Screw that, bro. Get out while you can. That's like some American Psycho level crazy. So yeah, that's what I would do if I was in your situation. I would pack my things and leave. And I know, and I'm sorry that this doesn't answer any of your questions regarding the polygraph test, but why on earth would you agree to take one in the first place? There's also an extra layer of this that is also really funny if you think about it. What if the original poster is absolutely lying? What if they really are spending some quality time with some random nobody while her boyfriend is going off for a run at 6 in the morning, and she's desperately searching online trying to figure out why she couldn't beat the system? I really don't know which one's worse, agreeing to do the polygraph test in the first place or failing the polygraph test and trying to figure out ways to get past the system. Whichever reality is correct in this situation, I wish the original poster the best of luck in getting out of that house, because even the initial suggestion of, "Oh, you're going to take a polygraph test," seems very weird and sketchy to me. And trust me when I say this, based off of no other information about this individual, you can do so much better. My dad is a complete control freak and is absolutely ruining the experience of me building my own home. For some backstory, I'm a 35-year-old male and I'm currently living with my dad at my sister's house. Their house is big and she and her family occupy the upper levels, while my dad and I live downstairs in the decently sized apartment basically. The reason being, I've bought a house myself last year and it needed some heavy renovations. My mother and grandmother passed away in the span of last year, both 6 months apart, and it had hit us quite a bit financially. So in order to afford both the mortgage and the renovations, it's been decided that I'll move in with my old man and to also keep him company after my mother's death, and that he'll be helping me with the house. To describe my dad, he is, to be polite, a really bad control freak, and it's like I'm back to being 14 years old again. As far as I remember, his only ways of communicating with us are ordering us around and berating us, and in that order. We have nothing in common. I can't start a conversation with him without it turning about me being a naive idiot who knows nothing about life. He also complains about really petty things. Apparently to him, I hold my fork wrong, and I should also not apparently sleep past 9 o'clock because other adult people are already up and doing whatever other adult people do for their responsibilities. So after working all day, all I want is to be left alone and not be subjected to his life lessons, which rarely happens because I have basically zero privacy, and he just loves to tell me that I'm a failure of an adult. So today I left work a bit later because I hate leaving stuff unfinished, and the client wanted his stuff done as soon as possible. If half an hour extra would mean I wouldn't have to return later, it works for me, which earned me another lesson about how I should prioritize family matters first and ditch work 4 hours early if necessary. And yeah, with that same logic, I would go ahead and get fired, but for some reason he doesn't seem to understand the nuance. This is all because he asked me to drive by the house in order to check the work done, and I, for some reason, did not ask the workers to stay past 6 o'clock at night in order to discuss things with them. I just knew the evening would be terrible, and you know what? It was. See, while I've been admiring my new walls and the paint, I've noticed a note in my mailbox. Some dude wanted to know if I wanted to keep the old doors, and if not, he wondered if he could have them. Great, I thought. I wouldn't need to throw them away myself, and I told my dad about it, but that ended up being a massive mistake. When my dad asks for something, it's rather an order, if anything. He'll tell you to do something and it has to be done, and he said it has to be done right away. So here I am, still chewing on my dinner, calling the guy about the doors. Per usual protocol, he's hovering around telling me what to say and how to say it, while rolling his eyes when I tell him to please go away and to give me some distance. Because let's be frank, it's annoying and it's really frustrating, and he's been doing it for years. He can only hear my side of the conversation, and the door guy basically confirms by himself what my dad wants to know. But because I did not ask in the way that my dad would want me to, it made him increasingly annoyed. By the end of the call, he's been yelling at me and calling me names, which nobody should utter to anybody. And after that, I laid into him because I don't like being insulted, even less by my own family. He then went to his room and pouted for 5 minutes, then went back to me and threw his copy of the house keys in my face, telling me that I'm on my own and that he would not help me with the house anymore, which, by the way, is just an empty threat he likes to throw around when he can't get his way. I told him that the next time he calls me names and acts like a child, I will deck him so hard that he'll need a straw for his next dinner. As you can imagine, after that, we're not really talking to each other now. And honestly, the silence is golden. Sounds like you have a rough situation on your hands. I can completely understand where you're coming from, but I can also see where this dad is coming from. It seems like they're definitely grieving the loss of their wife. So I kind of cut him a little bit of slack, but I also know what it's like to have somebody hanging over your shoulder trying to tell you what you can and can't do with a certain thing. It is incredibly frustrating. I definitely would not have said, hey, I'm going to deck you if you do that again. I think that's a bad idea. But other than that, I think he handled it pretty well. And personally, I would take his empty threat seriously. If he doesn't want to help with the house anymore, you just make sure you never give those keys back and you call it good. He's no longer a part of the house. So best of luck with navigating this, and hopefully things get better between you and your dad. An entitled Karen demands that I give my Nintendo Switch to her demon child while we're on a flight, but after I kindly say no, she freaks out on me and makes a scene. This just happened the other day, and after sharing the story with my friends and family, a few of them suggested I share this online. The scene is a Southwest airline flight. I was sitting in a window seat next to two lovely ladies, and directly horizontal from us was an empty seat, a mom and her son. The flight was taking off. For those who don't know, you are required to stay in your seat seat and keep your seatbelt on for the beginning of the flight until the captain says otherwise. I was strapped in my seat and decided to take out my Nintendo Switch from my carry-on beneath my feet. "Excuse me, ma'am?" I didn't realize it at first that the mother in the seats horizontal from me was trying to get my attention. She unbuckled her belt and moved to the empty seat by the aisle closer to me. "Ma'am, with the video game?" I lifted my head, but the stranger next to me nudged me as well. They told me that the lady wants to get my attention. So I turned my head to see this woman leaning across the aisle with her hands on the armrest of the aisle seat in my row. "Sorry," she began. "I just wanted to know if there's any way that my son could use that game for a little while." I was a little confused that she would even ask this, but I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. My Nintendo Switch is actually really important to me. I don't feel comfortable giving it to anyone I don't know. I don't even let my sisters play with it." I was going to continue from here, but the woman cut me off. She says, "Oh, my son's not like most kids. He's not destructive. His cousin has one of those and he knows how to play it." She smiled and put her hand out expectingly. The two women seated next to me looked at me as if they were also in disbelief. I said again, "I'm sorry, I just don't feel comfortable. I brought it for me." Visibly upset, this woman in a huff says, "How old are you?" She said this condescendingly and retracted her hand, slapping it on her leg as if she's frustrated. I told her that I'm 25, even though that doesn't matter with the situation. At this point, I was growing exceptionally uncomfortable. She began sounding very agitated at this point as she said, "Well, my son is 8. This is an hour and 45-minute flight, and he just wants something to do. He can't see it for a few minutes." I tell her, "No, I am not comfortable with that. I'm sorry, but I'm expecting you to understand since this is my property." I put my head down and I unpaused my game as to ignore anything she had further to say. At this point, she was genuinely livid. "Are you serious?" She then addresses her kid and says, "Well, sorry, buddy. Not everyone knows how to share." The woman said this to her kid sitting next to her. Her child started whining and kicking the seat in front of him. "Thanks for this," she said to me. "A sweet kid just wants to share with you, and you're being ignorant about it." Before I even opened my mouth, one of the ladies in my row snapped back at her. They asked her, "How dare you bring that kind of energy on this plane?" This lady backed me up too, saying that I was very kind about saying that I don't want to give my electronics to a stranger and that it made me uncomfortable. But this entitled Karen was not having it. She actually said, she's an adult and can't share with a kid for a few minutes of a nearly 2-hour flight." The woman in my row responded and said, "You should have brought something for him to do then." And that actually shut her up for good. At the end of the flight, the woman collected her luggage from the overhead bins, looked at me and said, "I hope you're happy going against God's word, not sharing with a child." Some of the people around us giggled like small children. I'm sure that they overheard the drama at the beginning of the flight. I've come across some entitled Karens in my life, but this strange lady definitely took the cake. Why is it that stuff like this never happens when I'm around? It is like my dream to watch this all go down. This was hilarious. This entitled Karen actually wanted this original poster to give them their Nintendo Switch just so their stupid gremlin child could have something to do on the flight. Like, I'm sorry, that's not anybody's fault except for that terrible Karen parent. And the fact that they tried to guilt trip them no matter what is further evidence that this lady does this all the time. You can bet she pulls the Karen card and uses her kid as a weapon to try and get whatever she wants under every circumstance. It's so totally unfair and it's absolutely ridiculous. Thankfully, everybody else had some common sense and came to this lady's defense. And I've been on those kinds of flights where you have that entitled brat sitting nearby, and it's bad enough you gotta listen to them screaming and whining, but compound that by having some entitled Karen trying to boss you around and practically take your belongings. Like, I'm pretty sure that kid would have never given her back her Nintendo Switch and probably would have tried to lie and say, "No, it's mine." So good for them for putting their foot down and telling this lady no, because sometimes these entitled Karens need to be put in their place and absolutely shut down. I finally meet my long-distance boyfriend, and I can't help but feel a little disappointed. I have been in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend, John, that's not his real name, for about a year now. We live on opposite sides of the country, and I flew out to meet him in person a couple of weeks ago. Now, he is funny and kind, and we share a lot of the same opinions on things, and he's quite attractive. We don't have too much in common, except for both being on the artistic side, but that was never a big thing for me. As long as you put in effort and you communicate openly and get along well, I believe many relationships can work out. We have both sent pictures of ourselves and FaceTime before, so there was no chance of catfishing or anything like that. When I was going to meet him, I put on my nicest clothes I brought, a somewhat somewhat simple but nice top, some loose breathable slacks, a pair of plain flats, a sun hat, and I put on a little bit of eyeliner. It was a simple but elegant look, as my friend put it, who came with me on the trip. I was nervous but really excited to see him at the same time. I was keeping him updated on where I was so we could meet up, and he seemed like he was getting cold feet. He was telling me he didn't have enough gas to come meet me. For reference, it's about an hour drive for him. I offered to send him some money for the drive, which I did. He's actually asked me for gas money a couple of times and has yet to pay me back despite having a job. When he gets there, he has a t-shirt on and cargo shorts with boots that seem a bit too big for him. I don't think too much of it at the time, but in hindsight, I guess I felt overdressed. I don't know. We walk around for a bit and then we sit on a bench for a second because my legs were getting weak from how nervous I was. We hold hands for a little bit, and after a while he tries to kiss me on the lips. Now, I'll admit it, I haven't had my first kiss yet, and I stopped him because I'm pretty sure I'd faint if we kissed, and I didn't feel ready after meeting only a few minutes before. We sat holding hands for a little longer and got up and walked around. As we were walking around, I noticed his fingernails were much longer than mine and had dirt underneath them. I noted that he has a manual labor job, so that explains the dirt under the nails. After a while, he had to leave, and we parted ways after a kiss on the cheek. Now I'm home and I'm not sure how I feel. This is the longest relationship I've ever had, and I guess I feel, well, a little disappointed. Like something very wonderful would happen, and instead I just felt okay. What should I do going forward after making this realization? I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I know if I bring it up to him, I'll word it horribly and do more damage than anything. I'm very new to relationships, so I'm not sure what I should do. I can totally understand where you're coming from. Meeting your online boyfriend or girlfriend for the first time would probably be a little bit shocking. I mean, you've never actually met this person, but still you have such an intense bond with them that you love them. So seeing them face to face for the first time is probably a little scary, if not a little bit underwhelming. I think the best thing about all of this, though, is that you have met them and now you know what to expect, especially if you decide to keep this relationship going. And here's the thing, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, there's no way that you can try and force this and make it happen, because that wouldn't be fair for yourself. And it especially wouldn't be fair for him either. Like, if after this meetup you still feel like, hey, I don't really like him anymore, then it is what it is. Being around someone physically really does make a difference when it comes to whether you like them or not. You can idolize and make this ideal person out of who you see online, and you can spend hours with these people constantly. But in my opinion, until you meet them in person, you don't really know them that well. So hopefully this relationship still works out for you, and hopefully you meeting him in person didn't completely throw you off, because it sounds like you two have a good relationship together, and it would be a shame for that to just get thrown away, all because you finally met in person. I let a girl sit on my thigh, and now my girlfriend is incredibly angry at me, and I'm not sure what to do. I went to hang out with some friends at one of my friends' house, and my girlfriend came along with us. There were like 9 of us in total there, and we were just talking, eating, and drinking. After we played a drinking game, one of my friends was definitely under the influence and came over to where my girlfriend and I were sitting and cuddled and started talking to us. After talking for a bit, she wanted to sit and asked my girlfriend if she could sit on my leg. My legs were spread out in a V shape. My girlfriend said okay for some reason, and the girl sat on my left leg and had her arm around me to hold herself up. My girlfriend looked pretty upset by this girl, who was very drunk at the time, and it wasn't like I could just kick her off my leg and have her on the ground. We were talking for like 5 more minutes, but my girlfriend sounded very angry, and that's when she said that she's gonna go throw up from the alcohol and went off to the bathroom. I got up and seated the girl on the chair I was sitting on and went to go check on her. She wasn't throwing up, but told me that we were going home. So we walked back out to where everyone else was, and my girlfriend announced that we were leaving. When we got out, I ordered an Uber to drop us off at her apartment. When we were waiting for the Uber, she wasn't talking to me, and when I tried to talk to her, she would respond angrily and make a weird remark. When I asked her what she was upset about, she said it was obvious. I asked if it was the girl sitting on my leg, and she said yes. I was so confused because she said the girl can't sit on my lap. I asked her why she said the girl could sit on my lap, and then she said it's not like she could have said no. Personally, this doesn't make sense to me as to why she couldn't say no to this girl sitting on my lap. Like, how am I supposed to know that this is not allowed? So I told her that she's blaming me for no reason. When we were in the Uber, she yelled at me in front of the driver and started crying. When we got to her apartment and walked in, she told me to sleep on the floor with no blanket and no pillows. I said I'd rather go home and sleep on my own bed. Then I walked out of her apartment and went to my own. It's the next morning now, and she hasn't responded to any of my text messages. I don't want another miscommunication error, so I want to talk to her face to face but she's not responding. I'm not sure what to do. Was I in the wrong for letting this girl sit on my lap, even though my girlfriend said it was okay? Who's at fault here? What should I do? I think you're both at fault. Both of you are complete idiots. Your girlfriend should have never said yes to this drunk lady sitting on your lap, and you should have never let that drunk lady sit on your lap ever, under any circumstance. Your girlfriend is literally sitting there right next to you. Why on earth would you let that happen? If anything, your girlfriend should have sat on your lap and the drunk girl sat on the other chair. That would have been best case scenario. But in that same vein of thought, the girlfriend then acting like this is your fault and solely your fault is completely ridiculous. In my honest opinion, both of you are the problem here. Both of you made an equally stupid decision, and both of you are to blame for this situation going where it is. If a drunk girl came up to me, regardless of what my girlfriend said, I would absolutely 100% say, no, you're not sitting on my lap. I don't know who this chick is. I'm not interested in her. I'm interested in my girlfriend who's sitting right there. I'm not about to compromise that by letting some drunk chick sit next to me and cuddle up on me. No, thank you. And your girlfriend saying that she couldn't say no to this lady is the biggest cop-out ever. If she actually had your best interest in mind, with any intention of trying to protect her boyfriend, she would have said no on the spot. But she said yes, put her foot in her mouth, and then tried to blame you, which is just not okay. But overall, both of you are equally stupid, and you both need to figure out your stuff and grow up. Because allowing some girl to sit on your lap, whether your girlfriend stupidly said yes or not, is not okay. My husband wants me to keep my job for the benefits, and I want to pursue my passion at my dream job that just opened up. And I'm honestly not sure what to do. My husband and I have been married for a year, and we were dating for 3 years prior to getting married when we met in college. During college, I was working multiple jobs to keep me afloat. My family is not in the picture. While in college, I landed one internship with an organization that I loved. I now work for that organization full time, and I am not enjoying the work culture at all. The political games, the backstabbing coworkers, and the overly into themselves poor management across the organization makes me literally sick. The job itself has great time off and decent health benefits, as well as a flexible schedule. I love 50% of what I do, but I feel as though I only get paid the bare minimum, which might be standard for a nonprofit. While in college, I also volunteered to work with students because I had no happiness in my life. The kids brought me joy, and I thought graduating and landing a full-time job would make the world brighter, but I'm miserable sitting behind a desk all day. A part-time teaching position came up recently, a job I think would check many boxes for me. My partner, however, does not want me to take it because my current full-time job offers great benefits that I would lose. Mind you, we both met in college, and I feel too young to be settling down at a bleak office job. My husband insists that I'm making my way towards becoming a leader and making change at the organization that I currently work for. Should I follow my dream and leave the plush full-time job, or make responsible decisions based on my partner's thoughts? What should I do? This is a really tricky one because I can see both sides of this. On one hand, you really hate your full-time job, but there is some good benefits that come along with it. On the other hand, you have this dream job coming up, but it might not have the same benefits that your current job currently offers you. It's a really tricky place to be. The first thing I would personally look at would be if we can actually afford me switching jobs at the moment. It's great that your dream job opened up, like I'm really happy for you. But if your family finances cannot support you switching to a part-time position when you've currently been enjoying a full-time position that pays you quite well from what it sounds like, it might not be the wisest decision off the bat to go, okay, let's quit my full-time job to get my dream job that pays significantly less. That could really make a dent in just about everything in your life. And I don't think you should completely ignore your partner's advice on this one. I think they want the best thing for you, but at the same time, they also want to make sure that you're both financially stable. That is really important to consider. And if you're just switching jobs simply because you found your dream job, then personally, you need to make sure you can afford that switch. And guess what? If you can afford that switch and this dream job will somehow make ends meet and it won't be a financial burden, then absolutely make the switch. Who cares what anybody thinks? Maybe if you lay everything out and show your significant other that yes, this can work for us, they might be more willing to let you take that step, and they probably would be more supportive in the long run. So whatever you decide to do, I hope it works out for you. And I hope that whatever you decide to do, your significant other is there to support you. My partner is ending our relationship while I'm 34 weeks pregnant. I'm a 32-year-old female and my partner is 48 years old. He just told me today that he can't do it anymore. He says that he can't be in our relationship because he doesn't feel respected. The truth is, I just feel tolerated. We have the same thoughts about each other. If I think he's self-centered, he thinks the same about me. I haven't been able to work during the pregnancy, and while I'm receiving FMLA and unemployment, he goes out to work every day. I contribute to the household expenses and he contributes about 20% to the household duties. I pay the car note of the car he drives to make money. He got into a car accident that caused little damage, but I'm the one who is working with the companies for the repairs. We've had a broken toilet seat for months and he's done nothing to fix it. He washes the clothes once a month. We don't have a washer and dryer in our place and I can't carry the bags. The clothes need to be washed so bad, 3 huge bags, and still it's not getting done. I don't even have a dry towel. I literally sit in the house naked most days. I don't buy any summer clothing for my growing body because we have to save money, which I totally understand. But now I can't fit my pre-pregnancy summer clothes anymore. I clean the bathroom, I wash the dishes all the time. I do 75% of the cooking, and I get government assistance with the food, but I also buy out of pocket. He buys out of pocket too. I also buy restaurant food because I don't want to cook all the time, and it's blazing in our place, and I don't want to stand on my feet and cook in the kitchen at this stage of my pregnancy. He conveniently doesn't eat restaurant food, except he does, especially when I'm buying it. I try to tidy up the rest of our place as much as I can, but with no dressers or drawers or any place to put anything, it's always looking messy, which stresses me out. I don't make the bed every day, which for most of this pregnancy is an air mattress. I finally broke and bought a mattress after thinking he would get one. I've said it to him for months we need one because it's uncomfortable and hard for me to get in and out of the air mattress. This month I had to help with rent. That's his responsibility and I didn't get the money for that back. But when he paid my phone bill because I didn't have it because I helped with the rent, he expected that back, which I did. He says he can't do it anymore because he's out working and he's hungry, and I should have his meals ready for him. When I wake up after I do my morning routine, I should call him and tell him to come to breakfast. When he comes in from work at night, he shouldn't have to wait for his dinner. I've asked him to let me know when he's on his way so I can fix those things, but his response is to cook it anyway and to tell him to come and get it. He's also upset because I stream a lot of the day, sometimes just to have noise in the house. I don't talk to anyone, we don't go anywhere, I don't have any books to read. Most of our things are in storage. I did crochet a top last week though, but that's about it. Recently he's been building his social media presence and needed a website to create products. I designed the website, the logo, the products, and everything while he makes videos and posts them on TikTok. He didn't like the website and I redid it. Nothing to be done with that yet, to be honest, but I'm sure something will come about it. When he had his other business ventures, I was there with him to do whatever I could. He wanted to start a restaurant. I was there creating the menu and coming up with a system to streamline everything. He stopped doing that because he got stressed out dealing with people. I just don't know how I feel right now. I think I'm just indifferent and I just don't care anymore. I'm also upset because I have this baby to take care of and I need a work from home job in order to provide. The plan has always been that I'll be a stay-at-home mom as we don't want the baby to be in daycare. I'm going to talk to my employer next week to see about going to work until my due date to at least be bringing in some income or suffer through doing Uber. I feel like I can't talk to my family about this because they don't like him at all, and we've had problems all throughout our relationship, and I'm sure they don't want to hear about this stuff anymore. I can't stay with my family because they all smoke and won't stop just because I'm pregnant. They are advocates for smoking through the pregnancy, and I am not. My one sister lives in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I can't bring my bed there. He says that he's finally getting his old car fixed that's been down for more than a year, so I can do whatever I want. I worked in customer service and sales before this, and would really want a work-from-home job doing anything I'm capable of in order to provide. I'm upset, and I really don't know what to do. I think the person you're with is a complete scumbag. This guy is an absolute piece of garbage. You're about to have a baby, and he wants to break up? He wants to end this relationship because he doesn't feel respected? I mean, how selfish can you get? From what's being described, this woman has done everything for this man, and he has the audacity to turn this around and make it about himself. What a piece of garbage. But honestly, this lady will be so much better without him, and it doesn't help that you have family that are not understanding, and they've already written off this relationship as something that's never going to work out. So I honestly wish you the best, and I hope things work out for the better. My scumbag boyfriend had an affair with my therapist after she pressured him into doing it, and I simply don't know what to do now. I have been in therapy for about a year now because I was on the verge of a burnout and still had trauma to work through from my previous relationship, which has negatively impacted my current relationship with my boyfriend. While my current relationship has been an increasingly frequent topic in my therapy sessions, I was honestly there because of psychological pressure regarding my studies and my work. Lately, I've been feeling increasingly worse and haven't been able to handle the pressure pressure around me as well, which has also put a strain on my relationship. Because I wasn't being completely honest with my therapist and her suggestions weren't really working, we agreed to include my boyfriend in some of the sessions. These were to be one-on-one sessions so that she could get his perspective and create a plan that would take his needs into consideration as well. My therapist has been very helpful in helping me better reflect on my emotions and better articulating my needs. The better I could deal with the pressure, the better things went between me and my boyfriend. After a while, I noticed that my therapist was acting increasingly strange, whereas before she was very neutral and asked more pointed questions that allowed to reflect on my own behavior in relation to my relationship and patterns of behavior. She increasingly began to badmouth my relationship and blame me for my relationship problems. I found this very strange, and I couldn't explain where the sudden change came from, but I didn't think too much of it. Maybe I was just on the fence about how badly I treat my boyfriend. Fast forward to now. Yesterday, I was at my boyfriend's house, and we were having a nice day, and we decided to watch a movie together before bedtime. Out of nowhere, he suddenly had tears in his eyes, and then he confessed to me that he has been having an affair with her, my therapist. He cried the whole time and reassured to me that he regrets it and doesn't want to lose me. In his words, my therapist put so much pressure on him that he didn't know what to do and he couldn't say no. I guess it started when she invited him to be in the one-on-one sessions. This was months ago, and since then, they have been meeting secretly. After he confessed to me, I drove home and cried the entire car ride home. No matter how long I think about it, what he says just doesn't make sense. How could he do this to me? Ever since he told me about his cheating, he has been constantly trying to call and text me. I have 13 missed calls from him and a lot of messages assuring me that I am his world, and he didn't want any of this to happen, but she pushed him into doing it. He has also been to my parents' house, and my mother has told me how miserable he is, and that he mentions over and over again that my therapist pressured him into doing this. So now I don't know what to do. How do I handle this situation? Part of me doesn't want to believe any of this and wants to believe him, but the other part of me knows that what he did is unexcusable. What should I do? First and foremost, you need to report the therapist. That is so unethical, it's not even funny. Like, this person can possibly lose their license as a therapist because of this. Like, it's that bad. This literally goes against everything that they learn with like ethics codes, as well as boundaries, as well as client benefit. Like, this is horrible. This goes against everything. This person used all the information that was given them not to help and to treat these people, but instead to use it against this lady so she could steal her boyfriend? Like, what is going on? But that does not mean that your boyfriend is off the hook. He cheated on you, and that is something you definitely need to consider regardless of what you decide to do. His initial instinct when this lady started coming on to him and forcing him to get away from you should have been to turn around and run away. But instead, he entertained the idea and he let this lady manipulate him. And honestly, that is not acceptable either. So this is a really tough one, but honestly, there are red flags all over the place that you really need to consider. And regardless of what happens, I think most of all, I really hope you're able to get this therapist in trouble, because God knows what she's already done to other people in other situations. And if you can play a role in stopping that, then that's probably the best thing that'll come out of this. My ex-girlfriend is upset that I changed the Netflix password, and I'm not sure what to do about it. My girlfriend broke up with me last Tuesday, and it was pretty heavy. I spent a week asking her to take me back and forgive me every day until I got tired and just stopped. I always chase her. We've never gone more than 10 hours without speaking until yesterday. I didn't say a word to her for 24 hours until something happened and I had to clear something up. But she was telling me she doesn't love or care about me. She told me to leave her alone, yet she didn't block me like she normally would, mostly out of anger. I mean, I did mess up, and she has every right to hate me and never speak to me again. So I changed my Netflix and YouTube TV password. I also followed some celebrity girl she was upset about, all on impulse. I thought it was over for good. The things she said were hurtful, but I guess I jumped ahead of myself because she's still pretty upset that I followed this celebrity. She's also super upset about me changing my passwords. It just doesn't make sense why she'd be so upset and bothered if she was really done with me anyways. It's conflicting. I mean, what would you do in this situation? She said she just wants to be friends, but to me, she didn't expect me to do that. I usually chase after her. I think she sees me changing it and following another girl as me actually moving on, which is what she doesn't want. She's just being difficult. I don't know. I would like to be with her still, but only if she goes and works on herself. I've never given this girl girl's space. We've never gone a day without speaking, so she has to be losing her mind about the fact that I didn't say a word to her for an entire day, as well as other things that we normally do. She has her own Netflix account that she shares with her family, so no, I don't think she is using me. And she even had Netflix before we met. She just noticed that I logged out. And blocking her does nothing. I'm already blocked on Instagram and Twitter, but my accounts are public because of business, so it doesn't matter. My solution is giving her space and just focusing on myself. It feels like she wants to work stuff out, but she doesn't want to give in too easily. She's playing games with herself, really. Honestly, I'm not sure what I should do in this situation. I want to start off before I make any kind of comment on this by saying that the original poster is 28 years old and his ex-girlfriend is 24. When I first read this, I thought they were both teenagers in high school based on the way they're acting. Like, the amount of immaturity that I'm seeing in here is just really ridiculous. Like, I can kind of see why this girl broke up with the original poster, because the original poster is being really freaking weird. Like, I'm all about spending time with your significant other and taking care of each other and whatnot, but it sounds like this guy takes it to another extreme that just seems really obsessive. It seems like both of them are playing games to try and get the other person back, and it just does not seem like a healthy relationship for either of them. Like, if I'm going to be in a relationship, I want the other person to be dedicated to me. I don't want them to break up with me just to play games. Like, I don't got time for that, and I don't know many people who would. So yeah, both of these people in this situation absolutely need to grow up, because one of you is almost 30 and this behavior is really weird. Today I messed up by lying to my girlfriend about liking lemons for 3 years. I started dating my girlfriend close to 3 years ago, and at the start of the relationship, we were chatting, and a topic came up about things we like and dislike. It was a pretty typical conversation. I mentioned how I don't like to eat liver, and she mentioned that she's not a big fan of fish. It was nothing unusual. Then she asked if I like lemons. Now, I have nothing against lemons. I sometimes add a slice to my tea or drizzle a bit of lemon juice over fish, so I said, yeah, sure, I like lemons. She got all excited and told me that she loves lemons, which I found a little odd, but didn't think twice of it. The next time we met up, she came over with a lemon drink, asking about how she finally found a good brand with proper lemon flavor and wants to share it with me. I drank some and it was way too sour for me, but she was being all cute and excited and I didn't want to bring her down, so I lied and said that it was great. Sure, I should have been honest, but I figured it was a one-time thing, so what's the harm in making your girlfriend happy? Well, that's a big mistake. As it turns out, she was a huge fan of lemons, drinking lemon beverages, picking lemon-flavored options in restaurants, putting lemon juice on every meal, even just eating lemons by themselves. We haven't been dating long at that point, but even so, I honestly don't know how I didn't spot this sooner. She lived by herself, and her vegetable drawer in the fridge was always full of, guess what? That's right, lemons. It was bearable at first, but kept escalating, and I really wasn't sure what to do. She was always so excited about having this common interest with me, so I tried to find a way to get through it, like carrying sugar packets with me in secret to try and dull the sourness. A few months into the relationship, we've had to unexpectedly switch to dating long distance. Obviously, I was sad to be apart and only getting to see her for a few weeks at a time, but a part of me was kind of glad to be able to take breaks from the lemon frenzy. Since then, we've been dating long distance for over 2 years now, and we have both gotten used to the routine, and I thought that I had the situation under control for the most part. Well, I was wrong. This is where the mess up happened. While we were apart, she met up with her friends that she hasn't seen in a long while, and apparently her love for lemons came up in the conversation. She told them about how much she loves them, and how huge of a coincidence it was that I shared her love for them as well. Apparently her friends found the idea hilarious and started joking about how funny it would be if I was faking it for the last 3 years and constantly suffering whilst having to pretend that I love them just as much as she does. They even jokingly proposed for her to tell me that she has gotten sick of the lemons just to see what my reaction would be. Well, as you may have guessed where this is going, she ended up actually doing this, and I absolutely fell for it. Now she won't talk to me because she feels that I've been deceiving her for the past 3 years and that she can't trust me, especially since we're in a long-distance relationship where trust is everything. I don't know how I'm going to fix this, but if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, for the love of God, don't pretend that you're into lemons. This is hilarious. You know how you make it up to her? Just get her a bag of lemons. How can someone possibly be this obsessed with lemons? Like, lemons are cool and all, but like all the time for every meal, everything, that's way too much. For me, that'd be a big red flag even going into this relationship. And yeah, you probably shouldn't have lied about liking lemons that much, but at the same time, who in their right mind could have seen it escalate to this? Like, okay, you probably should have said something sooner. there. But this lady is clearly unhinged when it comes to lemons. And to be completely honest with you, if this is the deal breaker, if this is what sets her over the edge and says, hey, I don't want to be with you, then my God, I think you dodged a big one, buddy. All jokes aside, I really hope this gets worked out. This seems like such a silly thing to get upset over, but I guess if it's your whole life, I can kind of see where it would get weird. I think your best bet, honestly, is just to apologize and explain yourself. Maybe even explain to her that, hey, I don't like lemons that much, but I do love you. I've been eating lemons for 3 years just to put up with it because I love you. If you say something like that, you might just win her back. But what would you do? Leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in this situation? My friend comes over my house and proceeds to overstay her welcome. So my friend and I were chatting about stuff, just catching up a little bit, as we haven't talked in a small bit. Then she brings up the idea of her coming over to hang out for a little while. I said, sure, it'll just be a few hours long anyways, right? Well, I was wrong. Anywho, she comes over and all is well. We're laughing and joking about occasionally, but she is actually kind of ignoring me. I almost always had to start the 5-second conversations that we would have. Then when the time for her to leave rolls around, she suddenly asks if she can stay the night. All right, unplanned for sure, but I guess that's all right. She then finds my laptop and proceeds to use it. Yeah, I guess that's okay as well. A little weird, but sure. She logs into her account on a game, plays for a bit, then joins another game and suddenly starts a free art business exchange on Discord. It wouldn't be a problem except she used my account and she didn't get my permission. She got several firm no's after I found out, but wouldn't stop using my account. I felt a bit frustrated. After all, if she did a few clicks of digging, some of my information would be revealed to her. She could ruin everything and people wouldn't believe me if I told them that she did it. Knowing that, I felt a bit frustrated and anxious. And when begging her to stop wouldn't work, I did the only thing that came to mind. I reached for the mouse. As soon as I was super close to laying a firm grip on the mouse, she grabbed my arm and bit me. Not even a delicate bite either. She bit down with all of her might. It felt painful naturally. In a panic, I tried to fight back. But you know, can't really do much when your limbs are the equivalent to spaghetti. Once she lets go, she finally stopped using my account. However, the business still required my account since she was using my laptop, and I had to send her the photos of the drawings from my account. I sadly complied. It got annoying fast since I constantly had to pause whatever I was doing to take pictures. She didn't consider it to be annoying though. At first, she tried to convince me to let her use my email. I gave her a firm no, she asked again, and then another no. After an evening of frustration, I went to go to bed. She then found a game she couldn't play because she didn't have the account age required. So she convinced me to play using the alternate account. Regretfully, I accepted again. I went to go to bed again, but I just couldn't. Everything was so loud. Before I knew it, it was 1 in the morning and I forced myself to sleep. I woke up pretty early, in fact. They were awake too, and not with a pretty sight. There were forgotten wrappers strewn everywhere, here and there, and a few empty glass bottles on the floor in a pile, left out for who knows how long. The once clean room looked dirty and abandoned in the spot she sat in. I felt a bit repulsed, to be honest. After a few hours had passed, she begged to stay another night. I didn't want to, but unfortunately my parents said yes. Thankfully, nothing really happened the next day, except I revealed to both of them the disgusting thing she did that night. After that, my parents were pretty quick to get her out of the house. I don't think she'll ever be spending the night at my house ever again. Yeah, I'll say so. She bit you on the arm. How are we just letting that slide? If anyone bites me on the arm, I'm immediately getting them out of the house. And depending on how severe it is, I'm calling the police. What on earth is that all about? It sounds like the situation involves people who are very young, so I can kind of understand how things went down, but please tell me that this is somehow your ex-friend now. The fact that you agreed to so many things and you were such a pushover when this person was invading all of your privacy, regardless of what they were doing, is really baffling. This is a solid lesson in the fact that you need to learn how to say no. And guess what? It is okay to say no. You don't have to cave in at anyone's demand at the drop of a hat. It is okay to say no, get lost. So yeah, next time think more carefully about who you let over to your house, because you might have somebody sleep over who's going to make a mess, use your laptop without your permission, and then bite you if you try to stop them. And honestly, nobody needs that. Today, I messed up by making my son cry at his birthday party. My son had his 3rd birthday party today. He had been asking for anything and everything Animal Crossing related, so me and my wife thought it would be a good idea to buy him a cake with his favorite character on top of it. The cake looked wonderful, and his favorite character, Isabelle, was standing on top of it. It was very well made too. The bakery told us that Isabelle was a molding made out of chocolate, so it was all edible. My son adored his cake and spent a full 10 minutes talking to the chocolate Isabelle, all before the guests arrived. Soon enough, enough, everyone arrived and the party started. After dinner, we sang happy birthday. My son blew out all of his candles, and I got a knife out to cut the cake. His eyes widened and he freaked out. He screamed, "Papa, no! Don't cut Isabel!" My wife looked at me and mouthed that she would go calm him down. I nodded to her and they left the room as I cut the cake for the rest of the guests. This is understandable, right? I'm sure after my wife explains what happened to the cake, he'll be okay. Yeah, that's not what happened. I was curious to try the molding chocolate Isabel, so I removed her from the cake and placed her on a cutting board. The Isabel molding was a lot larger than you would think. I cut off her little legs and used my fork to bring the chocolate to my lips, and that's when I heard a blood-curdling scream from my son. "Papa, why are you eating Isabel?" That's when I realized I messed up. My son thought the chocolate Isabel was living and breathing. My son walked in on his father cutting and eating his favorite character that he was thoroughly convinced was alive and breathing. My son broke down into tears and held the legless Isabel in his hands while sobbing his heart out at the dinner table. He received a plush Isabel from his auntie, and now he refuses to let me touch her, saying anytime I come near it, "Papa's gonna eat her again." So yeah, I'm officially banned from being anywhere near his Animal Crossing collection in fear of me eating their legs. On one side, it's absolutely hilarious. I think if anything, this man created a new core memory for his son. He will definitely never forget this. On the other end of it, this is kind of sad. Thankfully, there was an Animal Crossing plushie to try and take the place of the Isabel that you just absolutely mutilated. I mean, you chopped it up on a chopping board. You gotta be a little bit more subtle and discreet than that. Overall, this is absolutely hilarious, and I died laughing about 12 times while trying to read this. Today, I messed up by taking a gel capsule before running an errand. Yes, this did actually happen today. So I take a medicine that comes in gel capsules every morning. It's filled with a blue liquid, and it's about the size of a black bean, so it's pretty big. This morning, I took it right before leaving to drop the dog off at her playgroup, which is about a 10-minute drive. I take the medicine, wash it down with a few gulps of water from my water bottle, and I head out the door with the dog. Simple enough. About 2 minutes into the drive, one of my sinuses starts hurting. You know that sinus holes at the back of your mouth? I'm not sure of their technical name, but I don't know what else it is. Those start burning. One of them specifically starts burning like I poured lemonade back there or something, because it was messing up my sinuses. So far, it's not too bad, just really annoying, especially since I left my water bottle at home. 2 minutes later, and it's burning really badly, and there's a horrible taste in my mouth. That's when I realized I somehow managed to snort the gel capsule into my sinuses, where it is now dissolving the gel cap and releasing the medicine. Now, since this medicine comes in a gel cap, the liquid inside is not treated in any way to disguise the flavor or mitigate the burning sensation in my mouth, so it tastes and feels like I would imagine battery acid would taste and feel like. We are now almost at the daycare drop-off, and I managed to get the dogs inside. My nose and eyes are streaming. Thank God I had a face mask in the car, and I run back to my car, intending to get home as fast as possible. The drive home was the longest 10 minutes of my life, including labor with 2 kids. I cried all the way home. It burned so badly, and since your sinuses go throughout your whole freaking head, various parts of my head are burning at various points, including the tubes leading to my ears. Of course, the usual drive home is also complicated by the fact that it's start time for the high school, which is between our house and the doggy daycare, and dozens of teenagers are wandering across the streets without looking, all while I'm attempting to drive. And I can now barely see because of the constant stream of liquid coming from my nose and eyes. I literally at one point had the thought, I'm gonna pass away. I'm going to unalive and be a headline. I'm going to win a Darwin Award. 40-year-old woman with multiple graduate degrees somehow manages to unalive herself by snorting an over-the-counter medicine in the form of a gel capsule. Story at 6. All this flashed through my head. And the traffic going into the school is taking forever to move. Finally, I make it home. I dash into the house, shedding my possessions left and right. I run to the kitchen thinking just one thing. I need to find a way to flush my sinuses. I don't have a neti pot, so I dug through a kitchen drawer and grabbed a turkey baster. I sucked up ice water from my water bottle and shot it up my sinuses as hard and as fast as I could, until a partially dissolved gel capsule falls out of my face hole and the burning decreases marginally. Even 3 hours later, I'm still swallowing fluid that tastes like medicine as it drains out of my sinuses. It is really gross, and I'm just happy that the burning sensation has gone away. That sounds like an absolute nightmare nightmare. I don't know why you didn't stop at the doggy daycare and ask them for some water or something. And yeah, I think you're right. That would qualify as a Darwin Award. I think the dumbest thing I've done that comes close to that is driving home after having my eyes checked and dilated. That was a nightmare and the biggest mistake of my life. So I totally understand what you mean when you're going past a school and you're like, oh no, this might be it. So be careful the next time you take your medicine, because you could very well light your sinuses on fire and ruin your day. An entitled Karen demands that I give my plane tickets to her as well as her child. So this happened in 2019. I was about to turn 18, so my parents gave me money. I always had wanted a fursuit, so of course I ordered one. Furry Migration 2019 was September 6th, so me and my friends were going to Virginia Beach. My neighbor had a kid that turned 7 the previous month, and the problem was that the kid was very annoying, and equally so, his mother was an absolute Karen. My neighbor's special child loved to make sandcastles, and the International Sand Sculpting Championship would be also taking place in Virginia Beach on September 27th. I don't know how she knew I had tickets, probably because my parents told her, but one day I was taking my dog for a walk when this entitled Karen came up to me and was like, "So, you were going to Virginia Beach, right?" So I just said, "Yes, I am." And I didn't tell her that it was for a furry migration because God knows how that might have gone over. When I tried to walk away, she actually stopped me and said, "Could you give me your tickets? My baby boy wants to see the sand sculpting championship." And I honestly was just so confused. I answered her by saying, "Excuse me, I bought these tickets with the money I was given as well as my own money. If you want tickets, go buy them yourself." After I said this, the entitled Karen was furious. She just looked at me completely enraged and walked back into her house. 2 days later or so, the woman came to me again and asked again for the tickets. So basically a repeat of the last time I shut her down. But this time I wasn't quite in the mood for that. So I just said, "Listen, I've waited for this since 2011, and I won't let it go just because your kid wants to see some stupidly complex sand sculptures." The mother was raging at me at this point, and she told me, "My child is more special than you. I will get those tickets by any means possible. I will call the police and tell them you stole those tickets from me." I thought she was crazy, but no, she really did call the police. About 2 hours passed until the police actually arrived, and of course, the entitled Karen lied about the tickets. The police officer then asked if he could see the tickets, and as it was clearly seen on the ticket, my name was all over it. But still, this entitled Karen lied again, trying to tell the police officer that this was her husband's name. Unfortunately for this Karen, the kid came up to her and the cop asked him for his full name. And at that point, the Karen was finished. "We live in Mexico, and your last names are your father's first last name as well as your mother's first last name." And obviously, my last name didn't match with whatever he was saying. Because of all of this, the mother got a 2,000 peso fine for lying to the police and trying to steal. Despite everything, at the end, I did go to the convention, which would be my first one with a fursuit. And to this day, I will never forget that entitled Karen and her stupid child. It is absolutely crazy to me that someone would call the police and try to lie to the police over something like this. It is horrible that this lady tried to use the police to get this kid's plane tickets to Virginia Beach just so they could see some stupid sandcastles. Like, honestly, who does that? Who's so unhinged that they would try and lie to the police and get you in trouble just to get those tickets? Why not just buy them yourself and stop hassling other people? It's such a weird thing to do. Also, how does this Karen not know that tickets can't be transferred like that? Like, you can't just work the system and try and take someone else's plane ticket and try and go to another country like that. Like, there's gonna be checks and balances along the way. This Karen was clearly unhinged and absolutely out of it, because any rational human being would know that you can't do that. So good for this person for standing up for themselves and not allowing some weird Karen to try and walk all over them. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. A lady tries to steal $2,000 worth of prepaid credit cards. When I worked at a popular supermarket just before the pandemic took off, this lady wanted to buy several $200 credit cards, all with $20 bills. I thought it was odd to pay in such small bills, but didn't worry about it too much. After counting it out herself, she would hand me the money so I could also count it. And when I finished, she'd ask to see the money back, which was also kind of weird, and I still didn't know why she was doing that. Then with a sleight of hand, she'd skim off some of the bills off the bottom of the stack really quickly. I sort of noticed at first, but thought I was seeing things and didn't want to cause any issues, so I just took the money. If that had been the only transaction, she might have gotten away with it, but luckily we were doing 2 purchases, and I definitely noticed this second time, especially as I recounted the money. I realized that even when counting the whole register's worth of money, there wouldn't have been enough bills in there to cover the first purchase of the cards. When I tried telling the lady that there was not enough money, she acted confused and pretended like she couldn't speak English, even though she was speaking fine earlier. Anyhow, a coworker was in my line, so I got her attention and let her know that there was an issue. So I asked her to grab a supervisor to let them know the situation as well. The lady was still standing there, and I'm kind of surprised she didn't try running. After a bit of time, the lady got off easy. She finished her purchase of the second set of credit cards and made her way out of the store, having paid the full price for the set. Unfortunately, at the time, we couldn't prove that she skimmed money off the pile of bills, so she basically got away with the first set of stolen credit cards. Later, the security footage was reviewed, and they confirmed she skimmed the money, but it was far too late at that point. I asked what was going to happen with her, and I was told that they would put a picture of her up and send a copy to our sister locations to warn them of a potential scammer. I wasn't punished because I did catch her early, and I stopped the second sale from being scammed, and that was honestly the end of that. After that, we never saw her again. That's a crazy story, to be completely honest. I have worked in retail as well as customer service, and this is one of the things they train you to look out for, at least when I was working in that kind of industry. You have to keep an eye out for someone trying this on you because it's a lot easier than you really think. Someone could very easily practice this and take money from you and completely ruin your drawer at the end of the day. If you're unfamiliar or if you haven't worked in this kind of environment before, your drawer at the end of the day is counted to make sure everything's accounted for. If there's any money off, you have to do a deep search and figure out where you messed up. And trust me, that is not a fun feeling. And if the drawer is somehow off, then guess what? That can potentially come out of your paycheck. So you always want to make sure you're getting and receiving the proper amount of money. It honestly kind of sucks that this lady didn't get caught in the end, but honestly, what can you do? But the fact that they put her picture up all over their store, as well as letting sister locations know that, hey, there's a scammer out there that's using sleight of hand to try and get money from you, is really, really good, because you know what? That's the best you can do in this kind of situation. And honestly, good for this employee for catching this in the first place. This is really, really easy to miss if you're not careful. So hopefully this lady never comes back to that store again, and if she does, I really hope she gets caught red-handed and prosecuted for stealing from the store. I caught my boyfriend cheating, and he told me that he still wants to keep our relationship going, and I honestly don't know what to do. As a bit of backstory, me and my boyfriend have always had a very bro-ish way of talking to each other. We call each other all kinds of things like home slice and brother. The way I talk has always been closer to being one of the boys, if you know what I mean. We honestly both really enjoy it, and our mutual friends get a kick out of it, so it always gets a good laugh. We have been dating for about a year now, after being friends for a while first, and things have been going really well, or at least so I thought. About a week ago, he left the city we both live in to visit his parents a few hours away. No biggie, pretty normal thing to do for the most part. He was staying for a few days, and one night I called him just to chat. His phone rang a few times before he picked up, only he didn't pick up. Instead, his phone was in his pocket, and it must have answered by accident. All I heard was the sound of him kissing someone else and other noises, if you know what I mean. I'll spare you the details, to be honest. My jaw dropped. I was in shock. I didn't say anything or hang up, I just waited. After a few more minutes, he must have been going to take off his pants or something and took the phone out of his pocket, where I assume he saw it was currently on a call with me. There was a silent stillness for a few seconds before I heard him whisper my name under his breath. He giggled quietly and said, "Ah well, cope and seethe," before hanging up the phone. I was so confused. I just sort of sat there for a while on my bed until I fell asleep. The next day, I woke up to a missed call from him. When I called him back, he asked me if I had heard anything on the phone last night. I confirmed the things I had heard, and in the most mature, logical tone my voice could muster at the moment, I asked him if this was it, and if he was done with the relationship. He said, and I quote, "Nah, I still want to date you. You've been kind of falling off recently, so I've been messing around a little. Hope that's cool." I get that our relationship is very casual, but how far is too far? He is normally certainly fun and kind, but this just seemed too much. Would it be overreacting to break up with him over this? What do I do? If I was in your shoes, this would be a complete deal breaker. There's no way I would allow my significant other to cheat on me like that and then try and act like it's super casual. Like, there's other things you can be super casual about, but this is not one of them. This is a huge betrayal of trust. There's no way on earth I would allow that to slide. And most of all, he's so disrespectful about it. It's like he doesn't even care about the current relationship he's in. He's just using you. Like, from what you've described, it sounds like he doesn't even feel bad about cheating on you. It sounds like he thinks that you're gonna be okay with this in some way, which honestly, I wouldn't if I was in your shoes. If you did stay with someone like this, what kind of future would you have? That would be honestly a nightmare to deal with. You could never trust this guy with anything. So best of luck with whatever kind of relationship you're looking to have with this guy, and hopefully you're able to see that you can do a lot better than this guy casually cheating on you. My best friend is chronically late, and I'm honestly not sure how to deal with this. Well, the title says it all, and I really mean it. My friend is chronically late, 30 minutes to an hour late. Last time we were supposed to hang out, he was an hour and a half late, which is a lot even for me. His excuse was that his brother needed his help with moving some furniture, and that he had to do that for an hour. Then it took another half hour to get where I was, and he didn't take this into account. But he always has convenient excuses for why he's late. And I'm not heartless here. Things come up, I get it, sure. And being late now and again is only human. But my friend has been late every time for the past 2 years. Not even joking. The reason why I remember this is because I was so surprised when he was on time once. It just simply never happens. The thing is, he is one of my best friends and a genuinely sweet person, which is why our friendship has lasted. I love him like a brother, but I'm starting to feel like he's taking me for granted. Our friend group used to be larger, but his relationship with the others has fallen apart, in part because of the fact that he's always chronically late. He clearly likes and cares for all of us, but he doesn't respect our time. And because of this, he's built up a reputation for being untrustworthy. So I really want to help him with this, not only for my own convenience and sanity, but also because I know that he will keep on ruining his friendships if he doesn't improve on this. So I'm not sure what to do. Is it wise for me to even bring this up to him at all and to expect him to actually change? Or should I learn to just let this go? Has anyone ever actually dealt with something like this before? What should I do? This does not sound like a very good friend in my opinion, and I completely understand why your other friends have kind of kicked him to the curb. Not respecting someone else's time and being an hour and a half late is unbelievably inconsiderate. For me, that's a complete lack of caring as well as a complete lack of respect for the person you're dedicated to. And by dedicated to, I mean you've made plans with them, there's some kind of mutual expectation that you're going to show up, and when you don't honor that, that loses trust immediately. I can understand some things coming up where you're like, hey, I have to try and do this thing real quick, or hey, an emergency popped up. That's understandable. But when it's been happening for 2 years and you still have not told them about this or done anything to try and fix the problem, then honestly, you're just kind of walking into it at that point. We have cell phones nowadays. There's literally no good excuse, in my opinion, to be an hour and a half late, even 2 hours at some point, to anything. At that point, you might as well not even show up. Anything past 15 minutes and I'm like, all right, they're just not showing up. There are tools available that this person could use that would help them get things going, like, I don't know, an alarm clock. Conveniently enough, your phone has an alarm on it that you could set saying, hey, you need to leave now. To try and help the situation, I mean, you could start lying to your friend about the time at which you're meeting up. Instead of actually meeting up at 10, you could be like, hey, we're meeting up at 8:30, and then just hope he shows up at 10. But even then, that's super unfair for you. You shouldn't have to lie to your friend just to try and have some semblance of a friendship with them. So I wish you the best of luck in figuring this one out, but I can tell you right now, if your friend doesn't want to change, no amount of help on your end is going to make them show up on time. Because I can tell you personally, if someone was an hour and a half late to something that I was planning, I would just leave and probably not want to deal with them ever again. And I would almost hope that they would complain that I left them, because I would then go into it and be like, hey, we were supposed to be there an hour and a half ago and you didn't show up. So yeah, in my opinion, you don't really need that kind of energy in your life, and you could do a lot better with people who actually want to show up, as well as respect your time and your energy. Today I messed up by driving 2 hours for my best friend's gender reveal. My best friend is currently pregnant with her second child, and her aunt is throwing her a gender reveal party. We've been friends since college when she had her first son, but haven't been able to see each other much over the past 5 or 6 years. I'm really excited to see her and her family because now we live in separate states. 2 hours isn't a lot, but she and I have a hard time keeping jobs where we don't work weekends, and I was the only one who could drive until recently. All yesterday morning, I was preparing and making sure that me and my boyfriend were ready before we started making the trek. We weren't planning on staying the night because we have pets, but it was going to be a long afternoon regardless. My boyfriend isn't a fan of social situations, especially ones where he doesn't really know anyone, but he loves me very much, and I make it up to him in other ways to show him how much I appreciate it. The ride was nothing abnormal, driving major highways and spending way too much on gas and tolls, all before we finally get to the small street she lives on. I'm slowly driving along and notice there isn't a whole lot going on. We arrived right on time, so I thought maybe we were just some of the first people to show up, but the street was very unoccupied by cars, and I hear no sort of party. I go up to the house, not really sure what to do, so I just ring the doorbell. She definitely has one of those camera-based doorbells, so being the awkward person that I am, I try not to look directly into the camera. I consider myself a polite person, so I waited a few minutes before calling my best friend to see where I was supposed to go, and because she's a wonderful human being, she answers right away. But there's something very clear in her voice. She was definitely sleeping, and that's when it hit me. I was a week early to the gender reveal party. I started laughing, and my boyfriend was face-palming with a silent laugh. My best friend was trying to make me feel less like an idiot, and I apologized more than I ever have in my life, whilst trying not to cry. My best friend was taking a nap, and because I don't want to take a pregnant woman from her nap, those being my exact words, I decided it would be best to drive home. I am a very emotional person, and while I know this is going to be the funniest story to tell later, I still cried half the drive home. We decided to go out for dinner since I had gotten dressed up and went to our favorite brewery nearby for food and craft beer. There was a large group with a lot of preteen boys whom were running around as preteen boys do, and halfway through our meal, one of the dads at the table bought me and my boyfriend another drink as a thank you for dealing with his kids. I admit we were both kind of tipsy when we left to go home, but the brewery is very close to our house and we take a lot of back roads to get there anyways. We got home, my boyfriend feeds the pets, I lay down on the bed where I promptly fell asleep until about 1 in the morning. Somewhere in there, my boyfriend came in to cuddle with me, as well as to wake me up, but I am a bad influence and somehow managed to suck him into sleeping with me. I woke up very dehydrated, my makeup all over my face, and my eyes in pain from sleeping with my contacts in. Overall, it's been a rough day. That is a rough day. Driving 2 hours to a party that isn't happening until a week later is a terrible feeling. I can't imagine how awkward that must have been at the doorstep when your friend had to explain, hey, that's not till next week. Hopefully all parties involved agree that this never happened and that they will never discuss this, because that is horribly, horribly embarrassing. So hopefully the gender reveal party goes well next week, and hopefully it doesn't get canceled without you knowing, because that would be super hilarious but also super tragic. Today I messed up when I tried to high-five a girl on the street, and boy did it not go well. Last night I went out for dinner with a girl I met online. The two of us were done with each other by the time the bill arrived. We had zero chemistry in person. I was so disappointed that I decided to walk home instead of calling an Uber. I live in a city that loves to celebrate on the weekends, so the walk did a good job of distracting me from overthinking my disappointing date. The streets were busy too. The clubs were absolutely packed and all of the restaurants that I saw were full. Along the way, I noticed an attractive girl standing outside one of the popular pubs. I assumed she was either under the influence or high, or both based on the way she was staring at the night sky and smiling. It was none of my business and I was prepared to just walk past her without reacting, but as soon as I was close enough, she randomly raised her hand like she was waiting for me to high-five her. Not being one to let a high-five go to waste, I did what I thought she wanted and I high-fived her. The moment our hands connected, she unexpectedly pulled me in for a hug and literally squeezed me like we were reunited after Thanos snapped us out of existence. It was unbelievably random, but considering how I was feeling after my date, I accepted the warm embrace of an attractive girl who may or may not have been on another planet mentally at the moment. Less than 5 seconds into the hug, I got pulled away by an aggressive guy who then headbutted me. For some reason, the girl was still holding on to my hand and ended up going down with me as I fell to the ground. The aggressive guy also lost his balance somehow and landed on top of me. Based on the number of times he said ouch back to back, it was safe to say the headbutt hurt both of us. A group of random strangers from the pub intervened before things could escalate. I was picked up and pulled in one direction while the aggressive guy and the girl was being pulled in another direction. From what I could hear through the noise, stories, the aggressive guy was under the impression that his girlfriend, aka the hugger, needed to be rescued from the creep on the street who, guess what, apparently was me. Thus, the guy headbutted me in the head. The girlfriend was an unreliable witness because she had no idea who I was or what was happening. So there I was, not only trying to recover from a headbutt, but also trying my best to make the aggressive guy understand that his girlfriend made the first move. The aggressive guy got even more aggressive after that because apparently I made it sound like his girlfriend was just trying to mess around with another guy. That was not my intention at all, but the damage was pretty much already done. The aggressive guy basically threatened my life, so at that point I got scared and I ran away. What a weird story, as well as a weird thing to get angry over. Like, your girlfriend is very clearly under the influence and is hugging random people on the street. Like, that's not the fault of the guy that high-fived her. But also in that same thought, yeah, you probably should not have high-fived the random drunk girl staring at the sky. Like, that's probably not the best decision. I don't think he could have possibly predicted that she was going to hang on to him like she's a leech, which would then result in him getting headbutted in the forehead. But I mean, here we are. When it really came down to it, there was no winning that situation. That guy was probably going to be mad at this guy walking by pretty much no matter what. So there's no point in trying to fight a drunk guy who's clearly under the influence and is just going to be super aggressive no matter what. I think his response of running away was probably the best solution for this situation. So the moral of the story is, don't high-five people you don't know, because there might be a boyfriend waiting around the corner ready to headbutt you. An entitled Karen walks up to my art at an exhibit and writes her Instagram handle all over it, and I couldn't be more upset. Last night, I was doing a live painting for a Bad Bunny event here in town. My sister and I were both artists, and each of us had our own canvas where we were adding all sorts of things. We were set up on a stage and were away from the general crowded area. The canvas I was working on had a lot of layered lettering that I was adding as the night went on. Every time a song would come on, I would write the title of the song or the lyrics specifically to the song that was playing from the artist. At one point, I had to go find the host of the event to ask for something. While I searched for him, my sister was talking to one of her friends and left the stage we were on to go find him. When I came back, there was a girl holding one of my paint markers standing on stage, and she had written her Instagram handle smack in the center of my art piece. As soon as I saw her, I rushed over to her and asked her what on earth did she think she was doing. I repeatedly told her, who on earth do you think you are to just come up here and start touching other people's stuff without permission? She said that she was also an artist. I told her, I don't care who you are. If you're an artist, you should know better. I also said that nobody gave you permission to come up here. She tries to say, well, you should have put up a sign saying not to come up here. To which I replied, honestly, who does that? It's common sense not to touch other people's art. She got mad at me saying that someone else did it too, to which I replied, I don't care, please leave. She never even apologized and just kept talking, trying to make me supposedly chill out. And I just spoke over her and kept saying things like, I don't care, please leave, and what's wrong with you? She just kept talking. She eventually left, and I grabbed a can of spray paint and wrote over her Instagram handle. I wish I would have taken a photo of it first before erasing it, but I was so angry I just covered it right away. I then found my sister and sternly scolded her for leaving the station because she was talking to her friends. Next time, maybe I will put up a sign not to come up on stage and vandalize someone else's art. That's a bummer that the original poster got rid of their Instagram handle and didn't take a picture of it or didn't look it up before they got rid of it. It would have been interesting to see if they tried to claim that art as their own. I know a lot of people on Instagram sometimes do that, where they take someone else's art and they're like, hey, look what I did. Even though it's like super obvious that, hey, no, you didn't. So it would have been nice to check that to see like, oh, did they try and steal my art? But it is what it is. It's so crazy that someone would walk up and vandalize someone's art. Like, how can you not see that the paint is probably still wet? In no situation is it okay for you to vandalize your art with your stupid Instagram handle. And you know they only did that just so they could get attention, because they themselves probably couldn't even get hired for a venue like this, let alone make something that was noteworthy enough for you to put your Instagram handle on it in the first place. I mean, what a trashy person, to be honest. But next time something like this happens, hopefully they keep the Instagram handle so they can message them later and shame them just a little bit more for trying to steal their art. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own story. stories. Am I the jerk for telling my mother she couldn't visit me and my child? So I just had a baby 5 months ago, and my mother invited herself to stay in my house for a month while I was waiting to go into labor. She insisted on being in the delivery room while I gave birth without asking me how I felt about it. She even went as far as getting a special certification just so she could be in the room. COVID is a huge concern around here, and I had just gotten over having it, along with my husband. I had an OBGYN appointment and asked about the rules of the hospital in regards to people being in the room with me while I was delivering, and the nurse told me that if I tested positive for COVID, one person could be with me, but they couldn't leave the room. My mother insisted that it should be her to be let in the room rather than my husband, and this is because she is a first-time grandmother. I explained to my mom that my husband would be the one present if by chance I still tested positive. So the time comes around for me to deliver my baby, and my mother is in the lobby waiting for me. I ended up testing positive for COVID, and I called my mother, who was still waiting in the lobby to be let in, and I explained to her that she could not be in the room. She then accused me of lying to her just so I didn't have to have her in the room with me, and she ended up driving back home because of that. I delivered my baby and things seemed like they were going well. My mother came back to the hospital and visited, and I asked her and my stepfather to wear masks because they were traveling across state lines, and I was worried that my baby might get sick. They had no issues aside from a few comments about how apparently the baby wouldn't know what his grandparents look like with these masks on. Fast forward to 2 months ago, and they were supposed to visit me and my family for my birthday. I once again texted them and asked them to wear masks and politely expressed why I put those rules in place. My mother read the message, and a few seconds later, I received a call from her. She started off the conversation by saying that she hadn't gone anywhere in the past few weeks, even though she texted me multiple times previously saying that she was out with friends, she was at a gathering for family, etc. She then went on to say that she shouldn't have to wear a mask because it was unfair to her and that it was dangerous for the baby not to see her without a mask. I stood my ground and told her that I was concerned for my baby's health, but she proceeded to scream at me and even bring my disabled father into the conversation. She said, "Your father is dying, and you don't wear a mask around him when you see him. Don't you care about his health?" She knows I'm very sensitive when it comes to my father, so I felt like this may have been a direct way to try and hurt me. But I ended up telling her that I did not want her to come and see my son if she was going to treat me that way. I'm an adult now, and I feel that even though I'm her child, I am not a child. I feel that if she wants me to respect her, I should get the same respect in return. So I go back to the same question. Am I the jerk for telling my mom she can't visit my child? Not at all. You are not the jerk for this situation. I've always had the opinion when it comes to your child, you set the ground rules. And if your mom can't respect those rules, well then congratulations, you can't see the kid. And it's hilarious that this mom would try and say, well, the baby's not going to recognize us if we're wearing our mask. This baby doesn't even realize that it's a baby. It hasn't even reached object permanence yet. It doesn't even know what a human is, let alone a mask. Like, the baby's not going to remember this moment. You are. And as far as I'm concerned, the original poster's mom in this situation is just being selfish and incredibly toxic, especially when it comes up to this mom bringing up the original poster's disabled father. The OP is right. This lady 100% brought that up just to try and hurt them, and you definitely don't need to put up with that. So no, you are not the jerk in this situation, and I think it's great that you stood your ground. You are an adult now, and you're no longer a child. And if they want to see your kid, they gotta play by your rules. An entitled influencer gives our salon a 1-star review after being a terrible customer. So this girl booked online for a short hair blow dry, and when she arrives, she literally has hair down to her bottom. Our hairdresser politely told her that she had booked a service that takes around 30 minutes, whereas her hair would take at least an hour to do. This girl works in the beauty industry and is well aware of how these bookings work. So we suggested that she could either reschedule or cancel her appointment, or we will recruit some of the other salon workers to help out and make it happen for her. So the manager helps do the blow drying, and the girl is chatting away with no drama. We get it done in the end, and she's happy. She gives no complaints, and in the end, we actually charge her for the short blow dry rather than the long one, just to be kind. All because it was a bit hectic with the 2 people helping rather than 1. The next day, we get a 1-star review on Google. We're surprised, as we did go out of our way to make it happen for her, and she was genuinely happy when she left. We speak to her on the phone, and she just says how traumatizing it was, telling us that that she felt rushed and that some water went on her face when her hair was being washed. She still says that she loved the blow dry, but the rest of the experience was just anxiety provoking. So we did our standard thing. We apologized for her bad experience and we offered to have her come back in for a free treatment just to try and smooth things over. Typical customer service stuff. But unfortunately, she has not answered back. She has since gone to another salon and is now posting discount codes for them. Our salon reviews are otherwise 5 stars. And of course, this has brought the overall rating down for something that we feel is totally not justified. It was really confusing and honestly just really rude. That is really unfortunate that someone would go to such lengths just to give a bad review to a salon, or to any business for that matter. The only time I would ever go online to give a 1-star review to a restaurant or a place of business that I've gone to would be if something legitimately terrible happened. Like if I saw an employee do something absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not even talking about minor slip-ups. I'm talking about some kind of earth-shattering experience where I'm like, whoa, I can never go back there again. I honestly hate how people use Google reviews as some kind of like open threat against businesses just to try and bring them down. And in this case, the 1-star review was absolutely not warranted. Like, you know how you make a change in a business or some kind of operation? You talk to the manager, you discuss the issue and say, hey, this is how I felt after this experience. And then you can get the free treatment and some kind of correction. But going online and leaving a 1-star review, even after you expressed how happy you were with the treatment and how you enjoyed being treated there, just seems really counterintuitive. It just seems very petty and it almost seems out of nowhere. And I think you also have to remember that the person who signed up for this treatment at this salon signed up knowing that their hair was super long. And so for them to be like, oh, it's just too chaotic and it was really anxiety inducing, that's a really big cop out in my opinion, because I'm sure that the employees, as well as the rest of the people that work there, as well as the manager, were probably scrambling just to make sure they could accommodate this stupid lady. So yeah, don't sweat it. 1 star is not going to do that bad. And if anything, you could probably leave a response to the bad review and be like, hey, this is what we did and this is why we had to do it. Because if I'm being completely honest, I don't know of anybody who has a perfect score when it comes to a review of some kind, and one bad egg is not going to spoil the bunch. So you should be good. My boyfriend's mom keeps insisting that I'm apparently going to cheat on him at college. So I'm an 18-year-old female and I met this guy Max online over 2 years ago. There was a huge group of mine and his friends that gamed together and we just talked for hours literally every day for the past 2 years. In November of last year, we realized that we really liked each other, and in December, we became official. Then, in March, my friends and I traveled across the country to meet that group of friends. It was really cool. Since then, he's been coming over here once a month to visit, and next month I'm going there. About 5 weeks ago, his mom started suggesting that I would cheat on him and that he should start seeing other people too. Obviously, neither of us would ever do that, but it really hurts my feelings. Just about a week ago, she was talking about how good of an influence I am, practically praising me for my high grades, as well as all the activities and sports I did at my school, and how happy she is that we're together. However, today he went shopping with her and he texted me to tell me that she said she knew how girls like me are and that I'm going to want to date, aka sleep around in college. This is 100% not true. I love my boyfriend and I'd never do anything to hurt him like that. He's been acting different, and I think with how much she's been saying it now, he's starting to believe her. It just really hurts me that she thinks that I would do that, and I don't know how to convince him or her that I wouldn't. What should I do? Honestly, if your partner is so easily swayed by other people's mistaken opinions of you, then his trust in you isn't firm enough for a relationship. I mean, that's just where it goes down, to be completely honest. Also, you're both teenagers, so I mean, like, hey, you got your whole college life ahead of you. You have a lot of time to grow up, and if he really can't see that, hey, I'm gonna try and keep this relationship going, and I'm gonna make things work, then honestly, that's his problem. It's not yours. His mom is a complete idiot who is clearly trying to manipulate the situation and is trying to fill his head with lies. I mean, if anything, you could definitely get back at the mom and prove her wrong by being super loyal to this guy, and you could do that just to spite her. But overall, you need to have a serious conversation with your boyfriend and be like, hey, do you love me? If you do, then you need to realize that I do as well, and I'm not gonna cheat on you. And if that's not enough for you to stick around with him, well, then that's your answer, to be honest. And if it does go that route, then guess what? Congratulations, you have college to look forward to. And trust me when I say this, there's gonna be a lot more opportunities there for you in college than you ever had in high school. I am secretly a multimillionaire and I don't know how to tell my boyfriend. What should I do? My boyfriend and I have been together for around 9 months. I go to college in the United States, but am from another country. We met freshman year and have a really sweet and honest relationship. He is coming to visit soon and he will see my house and lifestyle. Obviously, this is not an actual problem, just an uncomfortable conversation that we will inevitably need to have. People here are super conservative and close-minded. I need to tell my boyfriend about so much more than just money, but also that people who know me just because of my last name. I know that I can be open with him about anything, but I fear that I have waited too long to tell him and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. I'm sure that he doesn't suspect anything because I tend to dress casually and not really show how much money I come from. Is this something I should discuss with him before he visits? Or do you think I'm good to talk to him about it once he arrives? Some advice on this situation would really be appreciated because honestly, I don't know what to do. First off, this is a wonderful problem to have. I wish I had this problem. Oh no, my significant other doesn't know that I'm rich. How do I explain this? I know it sounds silly, but honestly, it is kind of silly. This is a very simple situation where honestly, you could just go, hey, my family comes from a lot of money, and then leave it at that. Obviously, this is probably not going to change anything to do with your relationship. You already have some semblance of a good relationship and you both love each other. You even said it yourself. You have a sweet, honest relationship with this guy. So there really shouldn't be any issues with telling him, hey, I'm loaded. And this will probably be even easier for you to explain. You could just tell him, hey, it's my parents who are rich, not me. I'm not rich. I didn't do something crazy to become some rich millionaire. It's my parents who are loaded. And having rich parents doesn't mean that you can't have a good relationship. And honestly, there's no real way to predict whether he'll try to take advantage of the situation or not. Because at the end of the day, it's not your money. It's your parents. But in my honest opinion, you had better tell him this before he comes over to your place. Because this is a big situation in my opinion. It's not your money, yes, but you definitely need to tell him before he shows up. This way he can be ready for whatever it is that you experience on a day-to-day basis. From the way the original poster is describing this, it sounds like the original poster and her family are much more famous than you would expect, especially for her boyfriend to be ready for. So yeah, you want to tell him about this like right away. It'll be a lot easier once he rolls up and then he can kind of see what's going on. Imagine if he doesn't know, then he rolls up to see you in your home country and then he's completely blindsided by this weird different lifestyle that you have. And yeah, it's gonna seem weird to him. So in my opinion, say something sooner than later, because otherwise this could really freak your boyfriend out. My parents do not like my boyfriend and I'm not sure what to do about it. For context, I'm a 22-year-old woman who just graduated college last week. For the past year and a half, I've been dating a man who I met through a friend at school. He is 41 years old, but I never felt like the age difference was an issue, and it's by far the best relationship I've ever had. Since I had to move back home after graduating, I felt like I had to tell my parents about the relationship, and they were not happy. My dad was first upset about the age difference, while my mom was more okay with it. I reminded them that my mom's parents, so my grandparents, had a 16-year difference, and that was never an issue for them. Then my dad backtracked by asking me about his race and why he looked dark in the pictures. I replied that he is a quarter black from his mom's side. So then my dad dropped the age thing and said I shouldn't be dating a black person. Then he started asking about his religion and got even more upset when I said he is Baptist. My family, for reference, is Methodist. This discussion happened yesterday. Today, I mentioned it again and my mom had cooled down a bit and said that since we've been dating for over a year, she is open to meeting him and getting to know him. But my dad is still fixated on the fact that he's a quarter black and his church is not in communion with ours, and therefore he is not a proper Christian. Has anyone ever dealt with this before, and do they have any advice? I told my boyfriend about all of this and he said just to give them time and to see if they come around. I brought up the possibility of me moving in with him and cutting off ties with my parents, but he doesn't think that that will be necessary and seems to be more hopeful than I am about an amicable resolution. What should I do? I think this is obvious, but maybe I just need to shout this from the rooftops. Your parents are racist, especially your dad. The fact that your boyfriend being black is somehow a deal breaker is absolutely disgusting. I can ignore the religious aspect of it. I totally understand that some religions have it where you can only marry people that are close to, if not in your own religion. I don't know much details about that, but the fact that your dad openly implies and has even said that the fact that your boyfriend is black is somehow a deal breaker in this situation is absolutely mind-boggling. This is 2022. How can someone actually honestly have that opinion nowadays? If you're in love with this man and you really care for him, I say date him no matter what your parents say, especially the useless garbage your dad has coming out of his mouth. If I was legitimately in your situation, I would not for a second let the religious bigots that are my parents determine who I can and can't date and soon marry. Like, that's not only disgusting, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Your parents should be ashamed of themselves, and you have the right idea. If I was in your shoes, I 100% would move out and cut contact with my parents and never talk to them again. But that's just me. What would you do? Leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in this situation? Today I messed up by realizing that I don't think I've been paying my taxes correctly, or at all in that matter. For some background, I've been working for my friend's family Mexican restaurant since I was 16. I started off hosting at one location, and now I've been waitressing at a newer one for a few weeks. This is really embarrassing, but until I met my boyfriend, I had no idea how taxes worked or that people who work at restaurants were supposed to pay them. I've never once asked my boss or coworkers, who are all mostly friends of my family, anything about taxes. I get paid in cash wrapped in a check with the amount of cash I'm receiving written somewhere. This has been how I've been getting paid for the past 3 years. My boyfriend was recently asking me about taxes and freaked out when he realized I didn't know what he was talking about. 2 weeks ago, I asked my boss, who's my friend's dad, about a W-2 form, which was my boyfriend's idea, in order to pay my taxes. And he basically said, "Oh, okay, sure. I'll give that to you sometime." And since that, I haven't heard anything from him. After I asked him, he turned to my other friend who works with me and asked her if she would like one too, which I thought was strange because she's been working here for 2 years as well. Is this gonna screw me financially? Have you guys experienced anything like this? I don't want to hurt my friend's family, but I should be paying taxes, right? Please give me advice on this. No one I know talks about this, and I'm not sure what to do. Oh man, this one gave me a headache. Should you be paying taxes? Is that a real question that I'm hearing right now? Should you be paying taxes? Yes, you should absolutely be paying taxes. Any income you make, guess what? You got to pay taxes on that. You got to declare it. You need to say, "Hey, I made this money. Here you go." And then of course the government's going to be like, "Thank you." And then they take a little bit of it, but you have to declare money that you make even if it's in cash. That's really important. But that's minor, in my opinion, compared to what you're actually dealing with. What you've been working under is a restaurant that has not wanted to employ you. That means that they just pay you money and that's it. You're not on their books. You're not on any kind of records. The fact that you had to go to them to get a W-2 form just so you could file your taxes correctly is insane to me. And your friend also was offered one, with the implication being that they're paying them under the table as well. That restaurant is probably saving so much money by doing it this way. I don't know the legality of that. That's none of my business. I have no clue what I'm talking about in that regard. But from my perspective, that is super sketchy. I don't know the details of the kind of restaurant you're working at or anything along those lines. But to answer your question, yeah, you need to pay taxes. But you're also really young from the sounds of it, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. This would be a lot different if you were older and you were making money and you weren't declaring it. But the biggest lesson here is pay your taxes. File it completely and correctly and accurately, and you'll be just fine. An entitled patient freaks out on the staff, harasses the front reception desk, and makes a big scene, only to then get put in his place by the doctor. I witnessed a situation recently at my doctor's office that absolutely blew my mind. At the doctor's office I go to, there is almost always a standing room waiting room due to how sought after the doctor and his staff are. At this doctor's office, patients typically wait an average of an hour or more past their scheduled visit time to be seen. And to be honest, it is worth the wait. Anyway, cue the entitled patient. He started complaining and bothering the reception staff every 20 minutes or so, and when that didn't work, he started loudly trying to incite other patients in the waiting room to complain as well, all because he didn't want to wait just to be seen. Most of the people in the lobby just ignored his weird tantrum, but the receptionist had had enough and called for a nurse to witness what was happening in the waiting room. The nurse must have involved the nurse manager, who came out to try and calm him down. She coddled his precious ego and told him that she would see what she could do. All of that just to try and get him to shut up. And well, she did see what she could do for him, which then escalated this to the doctor that everybody was waiting an hour or more just to see. So the doctor makes his first appearance into the waiting room, and he looks pissed. That's when I witnessed this man-child get berated in the most gloriously passive-aggressive way I have ever seen in my life. The doctor stood with his back open to the door that leads back to the patient's rooms. The doctor looked straight at this entitled man-child, who at this point was surely aware of the atmospheric change happening in that room, especially right at that moment because he locked eyes with the doctor and was on the verge of rising from his chair to revel in his success when he was stopped dead in his tracks by the bellowing voice of the doctor loudly addressing him by his first name only. The doctor loudly says, "Sir, do you see all these people?" The entitled patient tries to get up from their chair and scans around the max capacity room. That's when the doctor lays down the law. At this point, he's yelling and he says, "I don't need you as a patient. I have plenty and a waiting list of more begging to take your spot. You can either wait silently or find a new physician." And with that, the doctor turned his back to the room and walked back through the patient room door and closed it loudly behind him. The entitled patient sat silently with his head down for the remainder of the time I was there. I do not know how long it took him to be called back to be seen, but I do know that I arrived after him and was seen way before him. I honestly assume that he was likely seen last that day just because of the way he acted. What an absolute weirdo to go in there and act like that at a doctor's office. I think it's common knowledge, but in case you need a wake-up call, just because you're scheduled for a specific time does not mean that you're going to be seen at that specific time. Accidents happen, emergencies happen, a lot of things can derail a day for a doctor to see their patients. You are just one of many people they're seeing that day. Their schedule is packed and you need to understand that. It's honestly always so silly to see people act like this in a doctor's office waiting room, especially when they're trying to get other patients involved in their, mutiny. Like, what are you going to do? Go back there and force the doctor to see you? That's a really quick way to get the police called on you personally. I just don't know why anyone would want to act like that, especially when the doctor that they were seeing apparently is really good. They come with high praise and it's totally worth seeing them. Why would you then ruin your chance to see them and basically start off on really bad terms with them? That's not fair for anybody. So yeah, this entitled patient got what they deserved, and hopefully they just left after getting completely owned by that doctor, because I know for a fact that if I worked at that doctor's office, that patient would be the last person on planet Earth I would want to have to put up with on a regular basis. No thanks. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not attending my little sister's play? Now, before you judge me, let me give you some background. I'm a 17-year-old male and my sister is close to 13 years old. I love my sister from the day she was born, but now she is acting weird. We went to different schools and she chose to attend the theater club. It's not something bad. I went to my school's clubs as well, and she has been working very hard with the rest of the kids on this play. Now, tomorrow they will perform to their family members, and we all want to see her, but for some reason, she doesn't want our aunt from my mother's side to come, and I don't know why. Our aunt is the best, by the way. We love her so much, and so does she. She is not an entitled person. She is very kind and sweet. Hell, my sister shares some characteristics with my aunt. Our uncle is also a great man. He's very calm and clever, and he's always been very kind to us. The worst part about it is that the day of the play lands directly on my cousin's birthday, so our aunt wants to move the party for the next week. My sister won't say why she doesn't want our aunt to go. She is okay for our grandma to come with us, but for some reason, she is not okay for our aunt and her family. And it's not that there are no seats available, but rather she just doesn't want them with us. We also haven't seen our aunt in a long time. Even though we live relatively close together, we miss out on seeing them because of our final exams recently. We have tried to figure out a way to convince her, but at this point, I'm very angry with her, and I just don't want to see her play. How can you say no to a person who has made all kinds of efforts just to try and make your play by changing a party around as well as changing their plans completely? How can you not just see this hard work to get to your play? Tomorrow is the play and I need some advice on what to do. Am I the jerk for choosing not to go? I don't think you're necessarily a jerk for not wanting to go to this play. I think it's your sister that's kind of being the jerk here. As far as it's been described, they don't have a good reason as to why their aunt is not being allowed to see their play. And by the sounds of it, it isn't even a formal production. It's just some theater club stuff. So it's not that big of a deal. Like, this should be an easy decision. Just let them sit in the back row and see the play. If I were the aunt, I absolutely would show up no matter what. Like, what's so bad about this production that their aunt can't be seen at it? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So no, I don't think you're the jerk in this situation. If you choose not to go, then you can just say it's because your sister was being a freak and that she wasn't letting her aunt come to the play. But then again, it would be a good excuse to go to the play and then tell your sister, this is what you didn't want her to see. Like, I can't imagine them doing something so absurd that the aunt can't be there with her family. Unless, of course, this sister is actually making fun of her extended family, which would be a completely different can of worms. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in this situation? My best friend kissed me after her husband passed away. So my best friend of 14 years is named Stella. This is not her real name. And she kissed me after her husband passed passed away suddenly about 2 weeks ago. This is really messing me up and I don't know what to do about it. I grew up with a bit of a nice guy complex and always wanted a relationship. It wasn't until my early 20s that I realized how toxic and gross that mentality was and started taking steps to stop it. At about 15, I started developing feelings for Stella and was convinced I was in love. Due to the nice guy mentality, I usually burned bridges with girls I liked because I couldn't handle my feelings. But things were different with Stella. She got a long-term boyfriend and I continued to be friends with her. We stayed close and I got to know her new boyfriend. Him and I were never best friends, but we got along, and I never went out of my way to fuel any fire that the relationship had. All this just to explain that I saw Stella differently than the others who I burned bridges with, and never wanted to lose her because of how stupid I was. I was even semi-taken in by her family, as I had a bad home life. Anyways, she married her boyfriend John, different from the boyfriend mentioned above, about 3 years ago when they moved cross-country. They moved back about a year ago, and at one point, one of our other friends kind of messed up, thinking they broke up, and told her he was interested, but didn't know if I'd be okay with it, and she was confused, and she brought it up to me jokingly while the two of us were having a movie night. I laughed and admitted that I was super in love with her when we first met, and that everyone knew, to which she told me she didn't. I apologized and said I didn't want to push things and was happy we were friends, as well as being happy with the life she was living. And then we went on with our movie, and I thought that was that. About 2 weeks ago, Stella's husband passed away suddenly, and we were all kind of taken by shock. She has been having a difficult time grieving, and her family and I have been trying to be there for her. We've been taking shifts and staying with her just in case she needed anything. Last night, I was at her place with her, and we were watching a movie after her family left. She started crying, and I went to hug her and to try and comfort her. As the hug ended, she looked at me and leaned in for a kiss. And then she did just that. She kissed me. I was shocked, and I think visibly so, because she said goodnight and went to her room. I ended up going home and we haven't talked since last night. I don't know what to do. She's my friend and I do love her, but that kiss hit me like a truck, and now I don't know whether it's a friend or if I'm in love with her. I know she's going through a tremendous amount of grief, and I don't want to make her deal with that alone, but I don't know how she feels about or sees me, and I don't want to hurt her. I think there's still a part of me that is in love with her, but if anything were to happen, I wouldn't want it to be like this. I don't want her to love me out of grief or anything like that, and I don't want to do anything she'll regret when she has a clearer head. What should I do? I think you should really talk to her and not think too much about that kiss the other night, because grief can show up in a lot of different ways. Like, let's not forget, her husband just died 2 weeks ago. That's a horribly traumatic thing to go through, and I don't think she's in the right place to want to be looking for someone romantically. I think if anything, she's probably just really desperate for love right now. So yeah, first things first is you gotta act normal and then talk to her. I would not pursue this as some kind of relationship. Not right now, at least. This is the wrong time to try and pursue that. And you can even go the route of not even talking about the kiss unless she brings it up. You've gotta go from her perspective and know that she's probably going through a lot right now. She just lost her husband, and there's a lot of things that go along with that. She is very much in pain emotionally, physically, and she really does need people there. There's also the reality that she probably really regrets kissing you right after you left, and there's a chance that she regrets everything she did the other night as well. So in my opinion, don't pursue this or see this as some kind of sign that she's in love with you. Even if you have some kind of crush on her, you need to give that time and let that happen naturally. But 2 weeks after her husband passed away is not really a good time to try and figure out if you want to start dating her. My older brother resents me because I'm taller than him. To start off, I am a 16-year-old girl and I'm about 5'9", so I know compared to most of the people that might read this that I'm not that tall. Now, my older brother is 17 and he is 5'6". Our parents are 5 foot as well as 6 foot for my dad. I outgrew my brother about a year ago, and since then he's been really resentful towards me. His growth plates are closed, so he won't grow anymore. This is the height he's gonna be at for the rest of his life. Before this, he's always been an amazing older brother and has supported me through thick and thin, and has helped me a lot with so many things. Since the day where we found out I was taller than my brother has ignored me as much as possible, and sometimes outright claims that I'm not his sister. This continued throughout the year, and finally yesterday I asked him why he hates me now. He actually responded and said he didn't hate me, but was really jealous of my height and felt he got apparently cheated in the genetic lottery, and that while it wasn't my fault, he said he'll avoid me as much as possible. This honestly hurt me so badly. My brother is an idol to me. I never even teased him for being shorter than me. In fact, I didn't comment on it ever at all. Has anyone ever dealt with something like this? Is there any way I can fix this situation? What do I do? I know the original poster says that their growth plates have been checked, but there's always a chance he could grow up and get a lot taller. He is only 17 after all. But also, if he really wants to act that way, then there's really not much you can do about it. Sometimes people are going to be petty for really stupid reasons, and this definitely takes the cake. I totally understand where this guy's coming from though, because society places so much emphasis on how tall a guy is. At least in America, I'm not sure how it is in other countries. If you're short or under 6 feet tall, people tend to have this automatic thought of, oh, well, you're just short. But here's a fun fact. The average height of the American man is 5'9". 3 inches underneath that is not that big of a deal. Like, you're still going to be able to function in society like normal. Obviously, it really bothers him. And it's honestly easier said than done. It's not like you can look at him and say, hey, just don't be bothered by the fact that you're shorter than me. It sounds like he's going to be pissed off about this no matter what. And you really can't control that. And I totally understand. This guy's your idol. You really look up to him. And that really is a shame that he would act like this towards you. It is not your fault that you're just a couple of inches taller than him. In fact, it's nobody's fault that they're short. Like, that's just how things go sometimes. But I'm honestly not convinced that he's done growing. I think there's plenty of time for him to potentially get taller. And if not, then just work on yourself. Being tall is not all it's cracked up to be. And I honestly think with some time, he'll get over it and be comfortable in his own body. But whether he does that or not is not your fault or your problem. My fiance invaded my privacy during therapy. Okay, I am honestly so embarrassed and hurt over this. I do therapy sessions over telehealth, and I'm usually at home in my bedroom for these. We talk about many things, but today I focused on my relationship because of something that happened today. We were just reviewing my relationship and pinpointing places we should work on. So during this, she is asking me yes or no questions about things that happen in our relationship. In the middle of my therapist asking me a question, my fiance comes into the room and stands there and listens to my answers. Every time I answer a way he didn't want me to, he would tell me to say yes or no. He even told me to hang up or to pause what I was doing because I was lying, apparently. I have to hang up on my therapist just to get scolded for answering how I did, and was told that I only answered that way to hurt his feelings. He then makes me hug him and tries to comfort me for having to hang up on my therapist. He then tells me not to say he made me hang up because I guess it would make him look bad and that he is not abusive. I'm just embarrassed, and I feel like this gave my therapist a bad view on my relationship. She offered to make me an office appointment, which I accepted, and my fiance never apologized to me. He only texted me and asked if after therapy I was ready to leave him. We've been together for a year, and I feel like it's impossible for him to be so naive about my privacy during my therapy sessions. How do I make him understand that what he did was so wrong? I don't even know where to begin with this one, but I will just say first and foremost, this is unbelievably unacceptable and completely abusive. I think this gave your therapist a fantastic view on the relationship you're currently in. This guy literally made you drop the call on your therapist just so he could scold you on being open with your therapist. Like, this is a massive red flag. The fact that this guy is just trying to save face in front of this therapist and doesn't care about his future wife in this way and is just trying to cover up the fact that yes, he is being very abusive by making her do this is absolutely insane to me. Like, what kind of fiance would do this? You would think if your significant other was in therapy that you would be supportive and there for them. But this guy does a 180 and decides to act like a complete psychopath. He literally went into your room during your session and tried to convince you that you were lying because of the way you were speaking to your therapist. I mean, if there has ever been a situation where you might be questioning who it is that you're going to be marrying, this would be the red flags that you might be looking for. So I wish you the best of luck in figuring this out, because if you haven't figured it out yet, the way your fiance is acting is completely unacceptable and you could do a lot better than this. I was finally honest to my girlfriend of 2 years about how I felt trapped because of her anxiety, and now I feel like I gutted her and made her feel terrible. What should I do? My girlfriend is an amazing person. She is super caring, funny, sweet, attentive, and basically every other positive word you can think of. But she unfortunately also has massive anxiety, as well as self-esteem issues stemming from her terrible, hyper-religious parents who make it a point to always remind her how disposable she is. She grew up getting hit and kicked out of the house for something as minor as forgetting a dish in the sink. and they would always call her fat, which gave her body image issues. This has bled into our relationship and made her think she is as disposable to me, and no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to convince her otherwise. And since she sees herself as disposable to me, she is paranoid that I'm going to find someone to replace her, since basically every other girl is apparently better than her in her own eyes. It's gotten to the point where whenever I leave the house, she accuses me of going out to meet other girls, and I have to talk to her for sometimes hours, trying to convince her that it's just anxiety and not a fear she needs to listen to. I started to take it personal though, because I feel like after 2 years together, she should be over this fear and trust me more. As a result, I've been a lot less patient than before when she brings up these fears. This all culminated when I got invited on a week-long trip to Europe by my childhood best friend, who moved there a few years ago, and I haven't seen since. I told her I got invited, and her response was, "You're not going, are you?" And I said, yeah, I'm thinking about going. This started one of our typical fights about how she doesn't trust me not to be flirting with girls if I go, and I just kind of snapped and said I felt trapped, like I couldn't do anything I wanted anymore without her accusing me. I feel like I couldn't live my life the way I wanted to anymore. I angrily told her if she couldn't still trust me, then we should just end things now. To her, this basically confirmed all of her fears, and now she feels even more disposable and worthless than before, saying things like, "I knew I wasn't good enough for you. I hope you can find someone who isn't like me." We are currently broken up, but still talking, and both of us are not sure about whether we should try again. I feel terrible because I love her. I want to help her get over her insecurity and self-worth issues, but at the same time, dealing with constant accusations stemming from her insecurity is extremely stressful, and I don't know if I can get her to stop. Have any of you either had or been in a relationship with someone with anxiety and insecurity issues? And if so, how did you deal with it when it caused problems in the relationship? What should I do? You are not a bad person for expressing your frustration with them constantly accusing you of stuff, especially when those accusations are coming from nowhere. They are literally coming from your partner's own anxiety, and it is absolutely not fair for you to be labeled as something that you're not. That is absolutely abusive. I don't care what anyone says. It sounds like your girlfriend needs therapy and medication to help her get over this anxiety issue, and if she can't get over it, then to at least find ways to manage it. It sounds like there's nothing going on that's helping her manage these symptoms and these terrible feelings that she has. And in my opinion, your mental health is your responsibility. The fact that she's going after you and accusing you of all these things that are just blatantly not true is very unfair to you, and it's something that she needs to fix. So in my opinion, you're not in the wrong here. She is in the wrong for acting like this after 2 years of being together. It would be different if there were some kind of signs or something to say that, hey, maybe my boyfriend isn't being loyal. But for her automatic thought to just be, no, my boyfriend is automatically not faithful to me, that is, in my opinion, very toxic and does not make a good relationship. And no, anxiety is not as simple as just saying, okay, you need to suck it up and get over it. But at the end of the day, it is her responsibility to take care of her mental health. And clearly, based on what we've been told, she is not taking the steps necessary to take care of her mental health. Telling your significant other exactly how you feel and telling them what's going on and how you're feeling in the situation is exactly what should be happening in a healthy relationship. There should be communication, but it seems like the thing that is causing so much friction between the two of you is her false accusations against you that are baseless and just incredibly rude. So I don't know if there's anything you can do, and I really feel bad for your situation, but hopefully you can at least see that, hey, this is not your fault. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. What would you do in a situation like this? An entitled Karen refuses to prepay for her daughter's dental checkup, so I have to put her in her place after she tries to make a scene. So first, some background information. My mom owns a dental office, and she just came back from a 3-week vacation and left me in charge of the office. Now, my job description is quite complicated because I am only available to help during the summers, and I know it may seem like I don't know what I'm doing because I got this job out of nepotism, but this is the first summer in almost 8 summers of working there where I feel I could actually handle the weight of the title of office manager. Something I've been trying to help my pushover mom with is standardizing policies. She grants a lot of exceptions for her patients, and it's very annoying unless she has an office manager who can stop her. But the pandemic lost us our last office manager, so I've tried to step up. We don't have a lot of difficult patients, but still, I knew there would be some push pushback about enforcing policies, but I don't stay in the front a lot and I'm young, so this is my first experience with an entitled Karen, and I'm pretty proud of how I handled it. So while my mom was gone, our associate dentist saw patients a few days a week, so I was the final authority if the more experienced staff had any issues. So one day a patient comes in and assures us her mom will come in and pay after the routine checkup was done, all while she made the next appointment. Now this patient was about a middle-aged adult, but it was very clear that she was dependent on her mom because of some mental handicaps. She is super sweet, and I told her that she needed to pay before we see her because it was our policy. And honestly, I didn't think she or her mom would run off with the money, but the boss wasn't there and I didn't want to take any risks. So I asked her to see if her mom would have any problem coming in now to pay. When she came back and repeated that her mom usually comes in to pay when she's done, I assumed that if her mother had any issue with walking or anything physical, the patient would typically say so. So I asked one more time, "Are you sure?" And I see that she's getting nervous, and so she goes out again to ask. I felt bad putting the pressure on her to go and get her mom, but most of our patients are really understanding, so I figured her mom would just pay this time and ask the doctor about it during the visit. This old white lady comes in, walks straight up to the desk, and immediately starts going off on me. She tells me about how she's been coming here since I was born, and she has never had to pay prior to the treatment. I was very nervous because I haven't had anyone yell at me like that before, but I wanted to be nice, and I felt really bad because I'm a pushover just like my mom, but I have the benefit of learning from her mistakes. I tried telling her that we were implementing a new policy, and I unfortunately could not waive it for her because the boss is on vacation, but this entitled parent would not let me have a word in. So I just waited patiently and listened to her while our two back office assistants stood there behind me, clearly visible to all parties. Honestly, I was trying really hard to come up with a workable compromise for her while she was yelling at me, but it was at that moment that this entitled Karen chose to use the wrong ammunition. She said she knew the boss very well and the boss wouldn't like me treating her this way. I dropped about 90% of my sympathy for her after she said that, but I tried to be patient and understanding. Then she threatened to go somewhere else, and at that moment, the last 10% of sympathy faded with her loyalty. I looked her dead in the eye, folded my hands on the desk in front of me, and gently but firmly said, "Okay." The silence was long and deafening. The look on her face was priceless. I never broke eye contact, but I broke the silence and kindly informed her that I am in fact the boss's daughter, so she needs to pay beforehand today and she is free to take it up with my mom when she returns. I also purposefully called her my mom to drive the point home because normally I would refer to her by the title of office manager because I try to make sure that no one could tell that I'm her daughter. I just want to be professional. She went from a hostile Karen to a kind old grandma in about 30 seconds. And yeah, she paid for our service beforehand. After that encounter, I was shaking. I was shaking with fear, pride, confidence, anger. She actually tried to pull the loyalty card. But any patient who actually has enough treatment at our office to make a difference if they leave would know me personally and would recognize me at the front desk. I told my mom about it when she got back the other day, and she just laughed and said I did a good job because apparently this entitled Karen has never even been a patient herself. We make virtually no money off of her specifically. It's been a week and she hasn't called back about it, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. People like that who act so entitled and try and pull the loyalty card are absolutely ridiculous. Who in their right mind would act like that? Here's the thing, if a doctor's office has a specific policy, guess what? You gotta play by those rules. You don't get to decide when and how you pay for your treatments. The people who decide that are the office manager and the staff, and you gotta abide by it or you can get rescheduled. It's unfair to treat the staff so poorly and then to go back to the doctor and try and act like a saint. It's really disgusting and honestly very disturbing. So good for this lady for standing up for herself and laying down the law, especially with your mom being the office manager. That is just great. I honestly wish I could have been there to watch this lady dissolve into that kind old grandma, and we all know that's just a facade to try and get what they want. So good for you, and I'm super glad you put that Karen in her place. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for getting upset at my roommates over money? Up until this point, I was living with my maternal grandparents since Halloween of 2018 and never lived on my own due to financial issues, as well as being kicked out of my mom's house 5 months after turning 18. My job was an hour drive away, and I was getting really sick of the drive, and having such a long drive back in the morning after dealing with customers all night. I work in a casino, by the way. It was a challenge for me to decide because during lockdown, I was dealing with my own mental health after the death of my best and only friend. This is someone I was best friends with in high school, and it was all due to COVID. Having died 3 days after Christmas of 2020, I was a mess and fell into a deep depression, and I also had very bad social anxiety, not even able to go to the grocery store without having a panic attack. It took me a long time and a lot of therapy before I found a job. When I started the job in December of 2021, I was extremely nervous and quiet. I kept to myself and did my daily duties and then just went home. After 3 months, I made my first friend. Her name is Maria, and she would soon become one of my roommates that I live with as well. She had helped me with coming out at work and becoming my first friend after my best friend had passed away, and that's when we met our other friend by the name of May. She had just moved back to the States from Guam and moved in with her aunt. Her aunt didn't like that she was sleeping during the day, even though she worked all night, so she gave her 1 month to find a new place. When we went apartment hunting, Maria was having her own issues with her current roommate and didn't feel comfortable staying there with her 2 kids, and asked if we could find a place for all of us. We found a place and moved in together. May had no money after everything with the apartment was set, and asked if I would cover her part of the house supplies, her groceries, and shared items until she gets paid. We split everything 3 ways to make it easier. I had a high credit limit on my credit card from paying my bills on time for a few years. I agreed with the expectation that for each check, she would give me some form of payment to the credit card of what she owed. She agreed, and after buying stuff for the apartment plus personal items for her room, it was about $550 that she owed me. She had an unexpected trip to Mississippi to visit her boyfriend, who was stationed there, and when she came back, money was tight for her again. So I told her she could pay me back on her next check, not knowing, of course, that she asked my other roommate to co-sign with her to get a loan for $4,000. She bought a car for $2,000, as well as clothing, bedroom supplies, a brand new bed, as well as buying takeout as well as going out. I only received $138 after I asked her if she was going to add to the credit card. 6 weeks have passed and it's payday. I asked her if she was going to add anything to the credit card again, and she said sure, but asked when the monthly credit card bill was due. I said in 3 days, and she kind of brushed me off. We had planned to meet for lunch with some coworkers I hadn't hung out with outside of work. Since it was Friday, work is extremely busy, and we agreed to just go for lunch, come back, and take a nap before work that night. When we get to the restaurant, she acts like a different person being around these people, like she's trying to fit in really badly. They even make fun of other coworkers' appearances and ask that May call out so they can go drinking. We had 3 call-outs already that night, including May, and it was just going to be Maria and I working on a busy Friday night. Instead of going to work and earning money and tips for the night, she calls out, leaving Maria and I to work and her evading having to pay for the money she owes me. I got mad because we have a deal and she hasn't paid me anything in 6 weeks, but will then instead go spending money left and right before anything else. I tried to keep to myself because when I get mad, I say things I either don't mean or later regret. So I kept quiet and I just ignored her. Now my roommate May is mad because I'm upset, and Maria saying I'm being annoying and just pissing her off with my attitude. They're making me feel excluded from conversations, and when I leave the room, they laugh like they're trying to make me jealous. I feel like I should just suck it up and wait for her to pay it back in her own time, but some of my other coworkers say I'm not in the wrong and I should get my money sooner. So what do I do? Am I the jerk? I don't think you're the jerk in this situation. I think your crappy roommate is definitely the jerk. It's been 6 weeks and they still haven't paid you back. It's not like that's a bunch of money. Like you could easily skim that off of any normal average paycheck and pay you back easily. They're playing you pretty well, and the fact that they've only paid you $138 is more than enough reason for you to realize, hey, I will never loan them any money ever again, because you'll never see it. That remaining $412 is something that you absolutely are entitled to, especially when it goes towards your credit card. Like, yeah, it sounds like you're going to pay it off no matter what, but the fact that your roommate has not given you that money to take care of it is really, really terrible. So no, in this situation, you are most definitely 100% not the jerk. I am going on a group trip without my girlfriend, and she wants to be invited to come along too. This trip is a group trip with some online friends, 3 females and 5 males, all ranging from 20 to 27 years old. These are friends with whom I have met very infrequently and haven't kept in touch with too much, but still I hold them to a very high regard in terms of being a good friend. My girlfriend is worried about something occurring between me and these friends and said the solution is to invite her. Unfortunately, this trip for me feels very much like a boys' trip with just this group of friends. She said if it was a boys' trip, then it would be okay, but since there's women coming along that she doesn't know, she doesn't feel comfortable with any of it. I also have not had too much contact with this group, so this is honestly like a reconnection with them. I should also note that no external significant others are coming. 2 of the people who are already in the group recently started dating. I'm willing to invite my girlfriend to events including this group afterwards, but I'm not sure if I'm able to invite her this time, as it is a headache to reorganize the cost, and also it is just an extended catch-up with this specific group. I will ask, but if they deny, she will get mad. What should I do in regards to speaking to her or the group? I really don't see the issue here. I think the original poster is just being a little bit silly. Like, it's not that hard to go up to a group of friends who you yourself said you hold in high regard and ask them like, hey, you guys want to meet my girlfriend? She's great. I'm going to bring her along. And then that's that. Like, is there any reason why she shouldn't trust you? Like, it just seems really silly for me that you can't just ask your friends, hey, can my girlfriend come along too? She really wants to meet you. And you can just take it from that angle itself. You can make up the excuse that, hey, my girlfriend wants to meet everybody. She's heard a lot about you guys, and so she would love to come along with this and be involved. I think you guys will love her. And then that's that. I think any reasonable friend group would be like, yeah, sure, bring her along. If they say no, she can't come along, then that's really a red flag in my opinion. Like, why would they not want you to bring along your significant other? I totally understand that nobody else is doing that, but I don't see any legitimate reasons why she couldn't come along for this, aside from maybe the costs or just the logistics of all of it, which is understandable, but also you can work around that and figure it out. On the other side of this, the way your girlfriend is acting is really suspicious. Like, just because there are girls involved on this trip doesn't mean something is going to happen, and not initially and innately trusting your boyfriend that he's going to be loyal to you is really toxic in my opinion, and that's a really big red flag. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to trust him and say, yeah, he's not going to cheat on me, especially when there's been no real instance of him ever going behind your back or cheating or lying or doing anything. And as far as we've been told, this guy's loyal to his girlfriend just like you would with any other relationship. And no, anxiety is not a good excuse for you to say, oh, you're going to cheat on me. That's just weird and that's really toxic. So I can kind of see both sides of this, to be honest. But what would you do? Leave a comment down below. If you were in either one of these people's situations, how would you handle this? Would you be cool with your boyfriend going on this trip? Or would you yourself want to be involved and go along with it? Do you think this group of friends would be okay with a girlfriend tagging along? Or do you think this would be some kind of deal breaker? Leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you have to say. My significant other is upset that Father's Day did not go as planned. To preface, my significant other and I have been together for 3 years. We live together along with his son. So I had planned to take my significant other and his son to a restaurant that he had been talking about for months. So we made the drive and the place was closed on Father's Day. I did not have a backup plan, and my significant other offered no solutions, which I guess if we're looking at the logistics of this is totally my fault. We went back home and I prepared dinner for my significant other, my dad, and my sister. After dinner, we all went out for dessert. Everything was fine. That is until this morning when he went off on me. He was upset that we didn't spend any time together. He was upset that my sister and dad joined us for dessert, and he was also upset that my sister and I have family vacation planned for later this summer. For reference, this all got brought up during dinner. My family and her family, and we've been doing this for years. He says I don't prioritize him or his needs, and that I don't open up as much as he does. I told him I was sorry that Father's Day didn't go as planned, but I had no control over the restaurant. I would have happily have taken him there. I also told him that I had a trip planned for us a few weeks earlier. However, I am currently the only one working, so splurging on restaurants and souvenirs wasn't an option for this trip, to which he said he would rather not go because he doesn't want to go on vacation and eat ham sandwiches the whole time, or to have to tell his kid that they can't get souvenirs. I also told him that I've tried over and over to get him to plan things with me, but he says his plate is always full and he doesn't like to plan things. Eventually, the argument got really ugly, and he brought up issues we've had in the past. For example, 2 years ago, I begged him to take me on a trip somewhere. He declined because of his depression, and ultimately snapped and told me to plan a trip with my friends, and so I did. He also brought up how I take trips without him, and that I just go off with my friends and family, and that it isn't fair that he gets left behind, and that apparently while I go out, I'm supposedly living my best life. I'm just frustrated. I hate to throw 3 years down the drain, but this situation isn't improving. It doesn't seem fair that he is guilt-tripping me with my previous travels when I have tried and then tried again to get him to plan something, anything with me. It feels like anything I do is a problem for him, and I don't understand why. What should I do? This is really unfair the way your significant other is treating you, because it sounds like he's not happy with anything that you're doing, and that no matter what you do, it's never good enough. The original poster goes on to explain that for Father's Day, she did get him a lot of gifts, and that it's just unfortunate that the restaurant was closed, like it's not her fault. So in my opinion, this argument of being upset because he had to share Father's Day with other family members just seems really weird. Like, why would you not want your significant other's father with you on Father's Day? And it also seems like a lot of his arguments are just really petty and stupid. And if you really take a step back, it's not like this is a birthday or like some major holiday. It's Father's Day. Like, come on. Does it have to be absolutely perfect? And I bet you, even if that restaurant was open, it probably wouldn't have been enough. So to be honest, if you're looking for it, you are not to blame in this situation. This guy brings up past issues, and it sounds like he's very insecure with the fact that you're enjoying life. And this also does not ignore the fact that you've tried to involve him in almost everything you've done. You've even said, hey, let's go on a trip somewhere together, let's plan something. But he refuses to do anything. So I would not blame yourself for anything that's going on, because honestly, based on what you've explained, the way that things are going and the fact that you're fighting so much really stems from this guy. Should I share a tip from a customer who went out of their way to give it to me personally? With 20 years experience and having been trained in fine dining, I was quite shocked by what I experienced yesterday at my new workplace. It is a private members club with less than 500 members, so most people are well known and they know the staff. We had lunch bookings between 12 o'clock and 2 p.m., with most arriving at around 1 o'clock p.m., in total about 49 people, with half of them being tables of 6 and above. It should not be too difficult. As the new person, I was assigned to take food out. Our supervisor was taking orders, a long-standing colleague was supposed to seat and welcome, and I believe brought drinks from the staff bar to the tables. I did not witness much of what they did, but I did notice that service broke down with people waiting a long time to have plates cleared, as well as orders for dessert and more drinks taken. Yes, we were short-staffed, but the staff there was also not properly trained. The young lad working the bar carried glasses with drinks to the table and without a tray, which is just unexcusable, as well as touching the glass right on the rim. That was one of the first points of my training, and there were other issues as well. The dessert cutlery was not pulled down. The salt and pepper had not been removed after their main course, and empty glasses were not being taken off the table. Eventually, a table of 3 stopped me in the corridor after they moved from the table to the lounge for coffee to order, which I was able to fulfill promptly. As they went to the reception desk to pay, the gentleman approached me in the corridor and pressed a note into my hand. I debated with myself to put it into the tip jar, but I felt he meant to give it to me only, so I kept it, and I felt I deserved it overall. Should I have put this in the group tip jar, or am I good to just take it myself? What should I do? I think that customer gave it to you specifically, so personally, I don't think it's right to put it in some kind of community tip jar, especially if the rest of the staff, like you're describing, is not as well trained as you are. That tip is for you specifically. I know for myself, when I have a server who does a really good job, if I want to make sure that they receive a tip, I give them cash in hand. Sometimes the tips you get off of credit cards go to like a group thing and everyone gets paid out equally, which I think is ridiculous. So whenever I go out to eat personally, I bring cash with me just for that occasion. So no, don't give that away to your other coworkers who clearly were not working as hard as you were. You knew how best to help the customers that were around you, and that tip absolutely belongs to you. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and also subscribe to Am I the Genius if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below and let us know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one.